Good evening, everyone. So,
YouTube पे लाइव आ गया।
so the class is live on YouTube. You can log into, you can open YouTube link directly. Those of you, I think, some of you have seen before. Those of you who have not seen me before, my name is Sailesh. Sailesh Bhupalam, Faculty of Indian Economy and Public Administration at Inside IAS. So, this is first class of APEC for Indian Economy for prelims. This is mostly like a revision class. So, I'm going to assume that you already studied Indian Economy and we are just going for a fast revision and some things which are important from only prelims perspective. So what I've done is, some things are whichever are important from prelims perspective, which are small topics, I've just grouped them together. Along with that, some static revision also will take whatever has been important as thematic area in prelims earlier. So those things like monetary policy, fiscal policy, some aspects. So those parts we'll go through them quickly compared to regular classes, but that is static aspect. So one is prelims aspect, current affairs, second is static aspect, and third is economic survey and budget. So these are the three things we'll see in these APEC classes. So I hope everybody has studied, has attended some class of economy before, right? Is there anybody who has not studied economy before? Everybody has some idea of. So because of this, if you have some idea about economy before, then only you will be able to understand whatever we are going to discuss in the class, because it will be fast. Okay. Just give me 1 minute. Okay, so we'll start with APEC economy first. So in the beginning slides I have just given, you can say, syllabus and number of questions that have been asked from economy. In particular, if you see only economy, excluding some factual aspects like schemes, approximately 18 questions are asked from economy. If you add the schemes also, average increases to around 20. This is average number of questions. But if you look at some years, one year there was 36 questions, another year 28, some years only 15. But we cannot always expect exactly how many questions are going to be asked, but we can on an average take that this is going to be a probable number, approximately 20 questions, including schemes and general aspect of economy combined. So some characteristics of, you can say, economy, how they are going to be asked. There is no clear pattern on which topic a number of questions will be more, but based on thematic areas where they have repeated, I have just identified where there is good probability, but there is no guarantee just because they have asked before more, they'll ask more, because there is no pattern in exactly which topic is going to, you can say, more questions are going to be coming from which topic. What you have to do for prelims is, usually prelims is a recognition test. That means usually you need approximately 3 to 4 revisions, then you will be able to recognize it. That means if you are trying to change the sources that you are studying in each revision, imagine you read one textbook, then you read another, then you read some other notes or something, then it will be difficult to recognize it, because each time you would have studied in a different manner. Rather than that, what I would suggest is stick to one source, revise it at least 3 to 4 times, then you are good for prelims. And mains is a recall test. Another advantage of sticking to one source is you need extra revisions before mains, you need another 3 to 4 revisions. So if you have studied different books, then between prelims and mains it is impossible to study, you can say 7-8 times the same, you can say same source, because you already studied different sources. For mains, your brain needs recall, and for recall around 7 to 8 impressions should have happened about the same concept in your mind. But for recognition you don't need to have those many, you need only 3 or 4, and for that 3 or 4 you can say any source, you stick to it, which is maybe useful for mains also. That is even better, because it will be later useful for you, because already 3-4 revisions are over, another 3-4 revisions you can do between prelims and mains. So if you have to clear prelims and mains and in the same year, then usually this is the approach that I suggest in all the classes. This is one mistake that I've seen will cost you many attempts together. So if you are trying to choose different sources, multiple sources, then that is something that you have to avoid. Still now I think 50 more days are there. It is enough time for you to at least take major subjects and cover it if you are still missing in the right kind of approach. 50 days may not be, you can say, enough if you are complete fresher and you know nothing, but because all of you already have some amount of, you can say, background, 50 days if you give it dedicatedly, give everything, in 50 days it is enough for, you can say, you to clear prelims. I have cleared 5 prelims, and usually what I have seen is if you are starting out, you need approximately 90 to 100 days to clear prelims. That means this much of effort is required for you to be able to be recognizing the answer and then be able to choose that answer and clear the exam. So then NCERT books are important because everybody probably knows they are easily freely available, and UPSC tries to create a level playing field between everybody. And there is no need to get into too much technical aspect. Economy in particular as a subject, most of the questions are basic in nature. That means they are only testing your understanding. Conceptual, basic understanding and easy questions are going to be many. Out of 20 questions, probably 7 or 8 questions you can answer if you have attended any classes of economy. That means it doesn't matter what you have attended. 8 questions, up to 10 questions also you can attend if you have done revision properly of your class, whichever you have attended. So that means 50% score, it is not very difficult to get that 50% score in economy, because expectation of UPSC in economy, in my experience in the last 10 years, whatever I have seen, is low. That means generally students' ability to understand economy in India across the country is low. Because of this reason, the kind of questions they are asking are you can say, somewhat easy. They are not very difficult questions. So usually if you have attended, some of you have probably attended my classes earlier. If you have attended classes, then you can probably already answer 10 to 12 questions easily out of 20. Otherwise, even if you have attended any other classes also, it is probably easy to answer 10. But because economy is an easy subject, you should be more ambitious than just answering 50% questions, because even if you are losing a little more, you can say, marks in some other subjects, you should be able to score probably 13, 14 out of 20. Then you will be able to compensate for other subjects which are maybe difficult to score. Consider, say, art and culture, modern history, you will have to remember a lot of things. And compared to that, understanding a concept and using logic, deriving the answer and answering it is much easier. You understood this? So how exactly questions are being asked? Mix of static and current affairs are asking these questions. Imagine statement based question. There is a statement and there are options. First and second option are somewhat static. Third and fourth statement are, you can say, from current affairs. They'll mix up both current affairs and static parts in the same question, and they ask sometimes the question. Some people will, when they are adding the questions, they will add it into current affairs question, some others will add it into static question, but they are just mixing up both. So they are not asking more factual questions in prelims. In economy, they are asking more conceptual questions, not much of factual questions. And terminology based questions are very common in prelims. That means if you understand the terminology, you can answer many questions easily. Don't neglect any terminology. If it is coming in economic survey, if it is coming in budget, or you can say whichever books here. So for terminology, an easy hack that you can follow is take your NCERT books. At the back there is index of all the words used in this. Go through all of them. Probably there are only 10% words that you don't know yet. Make sure that you know them. Then similarly you can go to the textbook whichever you have studied. At the back there will be an index. Go through all those index words. Then terminology based questions are probably 1/3 of all prelims questions in economy. You can answer them easily if you go through this approach. We'll also see a lot of terminology, you can say, in the classes that we are taking here. Then interrelations. This requires conceptual understanding. Interlinkage between, you can say, interest rates and money supply. interest rates and exchange rate, these type of interlinkages between one variable and other variable, these type of things are asked to test your understanding, whether you understand the concept adequately. Then, so this conceptual interrelations, testing the understanding, these are all, you can say they are referring to the same thing, but slight nuance is present between them. Once you can say you start answering questions, you will get to know what we are talking about. So some basic meanings of economics I have given. Some of the slides we are not going to discuss in class. That is just for your reference. I have not removed them, even though you can say I will not discuss in class, so that you can at least read it, because it is not like tier 1 priority. You can read the meaning of economics yourself and understand it easily. So you can say these type of things in the middle will skip, but you will be able to read it by yourself. So coming to first is economics is a social science. That means there is always human behavior involved in economics. That means there will always be, you can say, uncertainty. It is not like physics or chemistry, which is a physical science. There are three types of, you can say, branches of economics. Micro means it is dealing with individual behavior. Individual means one person, whether he will buy, whether he will produce, whether he will sell. So these are economic decisions taken by this particular person. Then there is macroeconomics. Macro means we are talking about summation, aggregate of all the people in the country, all the economic decision makers in the country. It could be people, it could be maybe companies, governments, banks, they are all economic decision makers. When we aggregate them, that is macroeconomics. Meso is anything between the individual and whole country. So somewhere imagine a particular sector, a particular region is mesoeconomics. So these are all economic agents. They are basically somebody who, you can say, takes economic decisions. They are called as economic agents. Everybody probably knows about 4 factors of production. What does it mean when we say factors of production? Factors of production means prerequisites to produce anything. That means something, all these 4 factors of production should come together to produce anything. To produce a car, we need land so that we build some factory, labor so that they will work in this factory. Enterprise means maybe entrepreneurship. That means somebody who is willing to build this factory, take this risk. Capital means investment. When we bring all of them together, then only we make this car. So this is, you can say, factors of production. Why they are all participating here? Why are they coming? Why are they trying to produce the car? Because entrepreneur will get profit. Those who are giving loans, that means capital, they will get interest. Those who are working labor, they will get wages. Those who are giving land, they will get rent. Everybody is getting something out of it. Nobody participates in the economy for, you can say, other people's good. Everybody participates for their own good. That means they are getting something in return, and that is why they are participating. All 4 factors of production will get returns, and that is why they are, you can say, members, participants in the economy. Then demand and supply. Demand and supply, you can say, I have just given the meaning. Demand means when people are asking for something, but demand should satisfy 2 conditions. They are not just asking for something, they should be able to buy it also. That means demand is both willingness. Willingness means they are asking, and second is ability. In the economy, there may be huge amount of willingness to buy, maybe you can say, some Rolls-Royce cars, but the ability to buy is less. That means demand is high or low? Demand is low, because both conditions need to be satisfied, both you can say ability and willingness. Exactly same for supply. Many people want to supply, you can say, same, maybe they want to become distributors of Rolls-Royce cars, but they don't have the ability. They may have the willingness, but they don't have the ability. So that means, you can say, supply is less. So demand and supply both require both these conditions. That is, one is ability, second is willingness. Only when both willing and able, then only we say that there is demand and there is supply for the particular product. So supply and demand, if you map it, you can say according to how much quantity people are buying at different prices and how much quantities suppliers are supplying at different prices. This is how the graph will look like. Consider, for example, take an example, then you will understand this graph. Consider tomatoes. Somebody who is, you can say, tomato as of now the price is, you can say this is price is low. People will buy more tomatoes at low price or high, you can say less tomatoes. They will buy more. If tomato, imagine, has become 1 rupee per kg, then they will buy more, they make pickle out of tomato or something. Imagine, price will increase to 100 rupees. Will they buy more or will they buy less? You can see the quantity at higher price is less. So that means how much quantity people are actually buying at different prices. If you map out all these points, then you get this demand curve. And how much quantity people are willing to supply. Imagine farmers, will they want to grow more tomatoes if tomato is cheaper or costlier? If it is costlier, that means you can see as price reduces, people who are willing to supply these tomatoes, they are reducing. And as price increases, people who are willing to supply these tomatoes, it is increasing. You understood this? So this is basically demand curve and supply curve. How much quantity, and you can say on how much price people are willing to pay at each quantity. Then so far we have seen factors of production. Between all these factors of production, you can say there is some sort of circulation happening. That means circulation of money. Why people are paying money? Because they are getting something. This sort of circulation, if you see in some sort of a diagram, this is called a circular flow of income. You can see that households are actually paying something for the firms and buying. Households, whatever they pay, that is basically, you can say, coming to the firm, the money, the payments, the spending here, and households are buying goods and services. For example, consider this car factory we just took as example. Car is bought by household. Household means it is just a unit of decision making. In India, earlier there used to be NSSO. This NSSO has defined a household. Household means somebody who cooks together is a household in India. Now this is a part of NSO. So cooks together means imagine there are 20 members in a single house, but all the families are cooking differently. Maybe 4 families, then there are 4 households. Even though they are living together, if they are cooking differently, then it is a different household. You understood this? So this is basically a household. A household means it is considered to be a decision making unit in economics, because if they want to buy a car, people in the household, all the 4 or 5 members in the family, they discuss together and then they make a decision. Because of this reason, we have just considered here as a household. Imagine household is going to buy a car. If they are going to buy a car, they are going to spend money. In exchange, they are going to get a good, that means the car. Then that how firm will actually produce this car? They will have to hire some people from the households itself or not. So whoever they hire, that is a factor service provided to the firm. What is the service here? Labor is a service. What will they get in exchange as payment? For labor they get wages. Imagine they give land on rent, they will give rent. They will get rent. If they give loans to the firm, then they will get interest. If they buy shares, that means they are acting as entrepreneurs, then they will get a share of profit. So that means how actually a household is interacting with the firm is shown in this circular flow diagram. So now coming to this national income accounting, there are basically these 4 types of calculation of national income. GDP is the most common because it is easier to calculate compared to others, and worldwide everybody is calculating GDP. Already majority of people, if they are calculating GDP, others will also start doing the same thing, because we should be able to compare it with other countries or not. Now consider GDP means there is first thing, there is product. Product means in any country, imagine in a country there is basically some products being produced in a particular day, particular year. Whatever products are produced, product A, product B. Imagine the product A's price is 100 rupees, product B's price is also 100 rupees. 1 quantity and 2 quantity products have been produced. This is totally 100 rupees, this is totally how much? 100 into 2 is 200. How much is the total price of all the products produced in the economy this year? Is 300. And this is what we call as, you can say, GDP. Consider here product means we are multiplying the quantity of products with how much is the price of that particular product. Why are we considering price? GDP means what are we exactly trying to measure here is how much production is happening in the economy. Imagine we want to measure totally in the country how much of production, economic activity production is happening. Production means what? Same thing, all these 4 factors come together, factors of production, and we make a car. Something that we are making, how much we are making, we have to calculate. So, but what the problem is, we cannot add cars and bikes and apples and oranges. There has to be something common between them. What is common between all of them? There is some value, there is some money that is associated, exchange value associated with all these products. So we consider the exchange value and you can say multiply it with quantity, we get a number, and finally that number is basically, that is why we are using the product here. That means we will just multiply it with how many ever products are there, multiplied by how much ever are created, the price. So that means you can say this is the product. Domestic means what? Within the territory of the country. That means domestic means if within the territory of India we have produced something, then that is part of gross domestic product. If we have not produced it within the territory of India, we have produced it somewhere else, but used in India. Imagine oil is produced in Saudi Arabia, we are just using it in India. Then, is it a part of India's GDP? No. It is not part. What is a part of India's GDP? We have produced it in India. Imagine it is later exported. Is it still a part of India's GDP? Yes. If it is produced within the territory of India, it is a part of GDP. But national means, difference between national and domestic is, national means we are not considering India here, we are considering Indians. That means if Indians have produced it anywhere in the world, imagine somebody from India goes to USA, sets up a software company there, and later he intends to send the money back to India. So in this case, he is producing actually in USA, the same software. Imagine from Chennai somebody goes and opens Masala Dosa Center in New York. Then will that be added to GDP or not? Yes, because it is an Indian who is producing this. But will it be added to GDP? Why it will not be added to GDP? Because it is not within the territory of India. This is the difference between domestic and national. Then there is only one term remaining, gross and net. Gross and net in economy, actually in different places they mean different things. In this particular case, we are subtracting, always we will subtract something from gross to get net. And in this particular place we are subtracting depreciation. In different places we subtract different things according to context we have to understand. For example, when we say gross income and net income, gross income minus taxes is net income, gross domestic product, net domestic product. Gross domestic product minus depreciation is net domestic product. What exactly is depreciation? Depreciation means over a period of time. Because why decrease in value happens for these most products? Because of wear and tear is happening. Imagine somebody is using this car, the tires would have been worn out a little, and maybe the seat cover is torn a little. This is what is wear and tear. So wear and tear means the value of this car now has reduced, and this is what we call as depreciation. So when we remove this depreciation that has happened, why we have to remove depreciation? So this part you have to understand. You can only understand it by understanding what is stocks and flows. In NCERT book they have given this concept stocks and flows. So, but before you understand it, consider it like this. As of now, there is some wealth, whatever is there in the country, it is present. So take for an example, take an example. Consider, everybody understood what is GDP, how much production in a year is happening, that is GDP. Recently, Nirmala Sitharaman, I think 1 or 2 years back, she said that cars older than some years, maybe 10 years or 15 years, we have to remove them from economy. It means we should no longer use them. When we remove them, what happens to production of new cars? People have to use cars. Some 10% cars, if we remove them, some people, you can say company starts producing cars. That means this removal of cars, is it helping the economy or is it harming the economy? It is helping the economy. So imagine some riots happen and lot of buses are burnt and tires are burnt, glass is broken. Now all this production has to happen to replace this or not? Is it helping the economy or harming the economy? If it is helping the economy, then we have to burn lot more buses or not? Then we have a fundamental duty to break all glass wherever we see it, because it is helping the economy or not? Then what is wrong with this picture? What exactly is missing here?
They have not all the value is not ready. I mean, they have not used for that particular product.
So in this case, consider for example, where we are considering this GDP. GDP is how much new cars are produced in this particular year added to the total wealth of the country. That is actually flow. Flow means, consider the flow as if it is a river, and stock as if it is a dam. Dam is our total wealth of the country, whereas flow is how much new wealth is added to the country. When we say, you can say old cars have to be removed, where are they being removed from? They are being removed from the stock of the economy. When you remove something from the stock of the economy, net wealth loss is happening. People are still using the cars. In other countries maybe they will not. Right now actually people are using Maruti 800 cars even now. You see them on the roads. In India people will use it first in tier 1, then tier 2 city, then it will go to villages, and you can see that basically there is 20-year life for a car in India. But if we remove them after 10 years, maybe 15 years, then is there a net loss to this total stock of wealth or not? Wealth means a person used to use this product. It used to be useful to him. He used to carry maybe some cement sacks or something in this Maruti 800, now he can't do it. So that means you can see there is actually loss of wealth. To replace that loss of wealth, we are actually, you can say, some spending a little extra money. Imagine in your house, you break the TV, so you buy a new TV. Last month you bought a new TV. Can you consider this as adding of wealth or loss of wealth? It is a loss of wealth, because you are only looking at a new TV has come to your house. Then you feel that you can say it is net addition, but it is actually a loss of wealth. Even though we know that it is a loss of wealth, why did we ban all these cars then? Here we are not thinking about what is good for the economy. Only people who don't understand economy think that it is good for economy. Most people don't understand it, so government can convince people we have increased GDP by doing this. But it is not actually good for economy. It is good for environment, because old cars are releasing, you can say, pollutants, and they are inefficient, and huge amount of wastage of fuel is happening. All these are the problems, and those problems are what we are actually trying to solve by banning these old cars. You understood this? This is the difference between stock and flow. There is a trade-off between economy and environment. Trade-off means what? Trade-off means among two variables, we have to compromise one variable to achieve the other variable. Imagine you are going in a car. If you are going fast, your safety is compromised. If you want to go safe, then your speed is compromised. There is a trade-off between speed and safety. Similarly, there is a trade-off between environment and economy. If you want faster economic growth, sometimes there is a compromise on environment. If you want, you can say, to protect environment, there may be a compromise on economy. You understood? So this decision is basically a compromise on economy. This is the difference between stocks and flows. When we consider, now we understand what is stock and what is flow. GDP is measuring exactly what? Last year's GDP, how much ever increase happened, how much ever production happened, that is actually measuring only flows. Why are we measuring flows? Because the stock of capital, nobody has measured it. We may attempt it, but it is very difficult to measure the stock of capital, because this stock has been accumulating since the beginning of civilization. Maybe since, you can say, Indus Valley civilization. Recently in Telangana somewhere they started using something which was made in Kakatiya dynasty, some dams or something, or you can say channels where water will flow from one lake to another lake. That means it is a capital that has been invested probably hundreds of years ago. We cannot monetize the value of all these things easily because of this reason. Because it is difficult to calculate the stock of capital, what we just do is we consider how much extra flow is happening this year. You understood? Because it is difficult to calculate how much water is there in the ocean, we are just calculating how much water is entering the ocean every year. This is the difference between stock and flow. But imagine water is leaking away from the ocean somewhere. Imagine it is leaking into space or into deep interior of the earth or something. Should we know how much is leaking to be able to estimate how much net addition of water is happening or not? And depreciation is basically that leakage. Imagine in the dam, if water is entering the dam has a crack and water is leaking out also somewhere else. If we have to identify how much every year, how much net addition of water is happening into the dam, we should know two things. First is how much new water is entering, that is flow. Second is how much leakage is happening, that is depreciation. You understood this? So we have to remove depreciation. Depreciation of capital means whatever is already there in the stock, if it is depreciated, we cannot consider it to be considered as of now still, you can say, our net worth. So we will remove that part, we will add this part. Imagine total wealth is, for simplicity, 100 rupees. Extra wealth added this year is 10 rupees. Depreciation is 5 rupees. Then what is the net wealth added? This is 10 rupees. This leakage is 5 rupees. This 10 minus 5 is 5 rupees net addition has happened into the wealth. You understood? So this depreciation we have to remove, and that is what we do when we remove this depreciation from GDP to NDP. You understood this? From GDP we remove depreciation, we get NDP. Why do we remove depreciation? Because here we are trying to add net addition. That means identify how much extra has been added after removing depreciation. Now NNP you can yourself identify. Product means we are just considering how much quantity is produced, how much price is price is present of this particular quantity, everything. And that is product. Once we know the product, what is the meaning of net? What is the meaning of national here? National means Indians, if they are producing anywhere in the world, it should be a part of national product. And then net means from gross national product we are removing depreciation, then we are getting net national product. If you have to get an accurate picture of how much wealth is added into the economy every year, then which one of these is most accurate? NNP is most accurate because we have removed depreciation, and we are also considering whatever Indians are producing anywhere in the world. Not even if foreigners are producing in India, we don't consider it. Imagine similar to I told you an example where somebody from Chennai goes to make a masala dosa in New York. Similarly, from New York somebody brings Domino's pizza in India and sells it. Then that part, will we add it in GNP? No. Will we add it in GDP? Yes, because it is produced within India. You understood this? GDP means anything, whoever produces it doesn't matter. If we are producing it within India, then it should be a part of GDP. You understood? So here there is a definition. GDP is the total monetary or market value. This is the product. For the finished goods and services, finished goods will come to it. Goods and services, everybody knows what are goods and services. Goods means something which you can touch and feel, that means it is tangible. Services means it is not tangible, that means you can't touch and feel it. Imagine you go to a doctor and get consultation for, imagine your whatever you have, cold or cough or something. That means the person's knowledge you cannot touch and feel, it is intangible, it is a service. So this is the difference between goods and services. Produced within a country's borders in a specific time period. As of now, we are usually considering 1 year as a time period here to calculate how much GDP is being produced. So what exactly is finished goods? Finished goods, you have to understand what is intermediate good and final good. Somewhere here I think I have given intermediate good and final good. Anybody understands what is, why we will only consider finished goods or final goods? Intermediate goods are consumed in the production of final good. For example, imagine we make tires. These tires are used in the car or not. If we add the 4 tires price and the car's price again separately, will it lead to a problem in GDP or not? GDP looks like it is bigger than usual or smaller? Bigger. That means this is multiple counting bias that will occur if we don't remove this intermediate goods price. So that is why we remove whatever is intermediate. Intermediate good means item used by other producers as input for production. That means rubber is used for tires, we will remove this rubber. Then if it is used, the tire is used in car, we will remove this tire also. We will add only the final product, whatever it is, that is the car. Final good is an item that is meant for final use. So here, what is intermediate good, what is final good, we cannot classify it in the beginning itself. It is not based on the product, it is based on the use. Imagine a tire, it can be sold as it is to replace an existing tire, or it can be used in the car. You can use this tire to make a swing in your home by tying it to a tree also. However you are using it is left to you. How you use it, based on that government will decide whether it is a final good or an intermediate good. You understood this? So this is difference between intermediate good and final good. Consider now, which ones are added to GDP? Intermediate goods, are they added? No. Final goods are added. Are second hand goods added to GDP? Should they be added to GDP or should they not be added? Why they are not added? Because second hand goods were not produced in this year. GDP means what? Whatever is produced in this year, only that should be added. This was produced long ago. Imagine in second hand good, a part of this car is now, you can say, broken, and we replace that part with a new part. Should that new part be added to GDP or not? Yes, because that was produced this year. Imagine you want to sell your car and you hire some Cars 24 or some broker or someone. This person charges a commission of 3%. This commission 3%, should it be added to GDP or not? Yes, because that is a service rendered which year? This year where we are calculating, and that means second hand goods are not added, but some other things like this, whatever is produced this year should be added to GDP. You understood this? Then depreciation, it is in GDP, have we removed depreciation? We have not removed it, that means you can say depreciation has not been removed, we can say. Inflation, so usually whenever we remove inflation, it is called real GDP. Before removing inflation, it is called nominal GDP. Nominal minus inflation is real. This formula holds good everywhere. Nominal minus inflation is real. Wherever you see the words nominal and real, they mean the same thing. Nominal minus inflation is real. So if it is real GDP, we have removed inflation. If it is nominal GDP, we have not yet removed inflation. But usually whatever you see in newspapers or published in economic survey everywhere, they are all, you can say, already they would have removed inflation. Because if inflation is still there, it is not giving us the right numbers. So government will always consider only real numbers after removing inflation. So everything that is published is always real. If they have not mentioned anything, it means it is real. You understood this? So now we have seen what exactly is conceptual understanding. That means conceptually what is GDP, GNP, NDP, and NP. Any questions so far? Yeah. Okay, milk. Imagine you drink the milk directly, then that is added to GDP. If it is not added, if it is not drunk as of now in this particular year, you make it into powder, then that part which is made into powder is not added to GDP because it is not yet sold. Imagine then the powder is sold, whichever year it is sold, that will be added to GDP. You understand? Like I said, whether it is intermediate good or final good is not based on which product it is, how we are using that product is what is important. You understood? Now, you understood what are factors of production, what are the payments that we pay for factors of production. Imagine we produce a car in this particular factory and we pay for all these factors of production. Then, if we calculate for every single product we are producing, if we calculate how much we have paid to all the factors of production and add up all this, then what we get is basically gross value added at factor cost. In the name of it itself it is present. Factor cost means what? Cost that has been incurred to hire these factors, to get these factors to produce. GVA means gross value added. Value addition means what? We are adding value. Earlier there was, you can say, something which is less valuable. Now we have added extra value to it. Imagine we produce wheat. Wheat is valuable at maybe 30 rupees a kg is the value of wheat. If you make wheat into powder, it is more valuable, 40 rupees. What makes wheat powder more valuable than wheat? Or wheat flour more valuable than wheat? Why is it more valuable?
Utility, sir.
Its utility. It is not because we are putting in effort here or we are putting in time that it is becoming valuable. Sometimes we put more effort and it even becomes less valuable also. Imagine we add red color into this wheat. Then will it become more valuable? It probably takes same time and effort to do it. Red wheat. People are puzzled, they are not buying it. What people will buy is only what is useful to them. Adding value means making it more useful to people. As long as people demand it, as long as people demand whatever product you are making more than whatever it used to be, then you are adding value. Imagine wheat, demand is, let us assume demand in units, 10 units of demand is there for wheat. Wheat powder, 12 units of demand is present for wheat powder. If more demand is present, then more prices, that is value addition. You understood? Value, the word itself signifies, we are giving significance, we are giving importance to something. The value of wheat flour is more than wheat because we give more significance to wheat flour. You understood? Imagine wheat flour is made into some cookie. Cookie is more valuable than wheat flour because people find cookie more desirable compared to wheat flour. Because people want it, that is what is giving value. So you can see that gross value added means people are all coming together, they are producing something, means they are adding value. If you add up all the things that you can say they added value, how much they received for adding value, that is called as gross value added. At factor cost means we are not considering other things like production taxes and production subsidies. That is why it is still factor cost. So factor cost means just the costs that have been incurred to pay these factors. Everybody knows now what are the factors. That means for labor it is wages, etc., etc. This is called as gross value added at factor cost. Because we are adding all the incomes of people, we can consider this as income method of calculation of GDP. Because what are we adding here? Everybody's income or not? So income method of calculation of GDP actually finally gives us actually GVA only. To that we have to add product, you can say product taxes and product subsidies, production taxes and production subsidies, then we will get at, you can say, GDP. So now this part you understood what is factors of production, income method, GVA at factor cost. What exactly is production taxes and production subsidies? Production is a process. Imagine we are making a car. Government decides that anybody who makes consider we are making an electric car. Anybody who makes an electric car should get some extra benefit from government because they are producing electric vehicles, which is a good product for environment, everything. So government says anybody who is producing electric cars, we are going to give you some extra subsidy. We are going to give you, imagine, 1 crore rupees extra for every company. Here they are not exactly considering whether you are a small company, big company, producing less cars, more cars. The production as a process itself is considered that you are producing electric cars, so we should give you some subsidy. That is production subsidy. Production taxes. Imagine you are producing cigarettes. Because you are producing cigarettes, government may feel that you are creating some negative impact on economy, they may feel that you have to be taxed. Regardless of how much, you are a small company producing only 100 cigarettes a day, still there will be same tax. You are a big company producing 10 million cigarettes a day, still there is same tax. This is what we call as production tax. Production is not dependent upon volume that you produce, volume independent, which I have given in blue color. Whereas product taxes and product subsidies is volume dependent. You can understand now what is volume here. Volume means what are we talking about? How much production is happening. The quantity of production is volume. Here you can see product taxes and product subsidies are volume dependent. If government is taxing per cigarette or per car or something and giving subsidy per cigarette, per car it is giving subsidy, per cigarette it is taxing. In this case you can say this is called as product taxes and product. Production is a process, whereas product here we are talking about each good. Per good how much tax, how much subsidy. This is the difference between product taxes and production taxes. So here imagine in product method what we do is, if you add up this income method GVA, to that if you add up production taxes and remove these production subsidies, if government is giving subsidy, consider for example how much value has been added to this wheat. Wheat is 30 rupees, wheat flour is 40 rupees, how much value has been added? 10. What exactly are we trying to identify in GVA? We are, or you can say GDP, we are trying to identify this 10, how much this 10 rupees. We want to identify it, but government feels that to make it cheaper for consumers, will let us give 5 rupees subsidy. Then what will become the price of this, you can say wheat flour? It becomes 35 instead of 40. But does it anyway reduce the value added? No. To get the actual value added, what should we do? We should remove that subsidy or not. That is what we are doing here, so that we will be able to identify exactly how much is the value added in the country. You understand? We have to remove the subsidy given by government, and if you add the taxes imposed by government, then you will get by product method. If you calculate the GDP, then if you add, you should add both of these. India's current method is the product method. Why are we using this? GVA at basic prices. Basic prices means we are considering, we are not removing this part, we are considering even the taxes, production taxes and production subsidies also. Because the world everywhere they are using GVA at basic prices. For us it should be easy to compare with the rest of the world. That is why India is also using GVA at basic prices. You understood this? Everybody understood what is gross value added, what is taxes, subsidies, production taxes, production subsidies, product taxes, product subsidies. So now to this, if you add product per product extra tax, you can say, and then subsidy per product also, that also if you add, then what you will get is GDP at market prices. Market means finally where the consumer is actually buying it from this particular shop, that is basically the market. So this is what is GDP at market prices. So in this you can see the relationship between GVA and GDP also, and you can see all the three types of, you can say calculation of GDP also. Expenditure, that is expenditure method, where a person is actually finally paying money, that is expenditure. I think that part is missing, you can write it. So everybody understood this part? Yeah.
So in the GVA, we would just measure the value of the product. Like we would not entertain the payment, so we would just measure how much the flour costs. In the factor cost, we would include the cost paid to the farmer, then to the transporter, then to the machine cost, everything.
Okay, consider what exactly is value, gross value added. Imagine the flour was made actually last year. It is not made, consider wheat was produced last year, 30 rupees. That is not a value added this year. Last year that 30 rupee value added was already over. This year we are taking that wheat and making it into flour. That means this year how much value has been added? 10 rupees. So that 10 rupees whatever value has been added, you can see that is GVA. How much we are paying for land, labor, capital, entrepreneurship to make this wheat into wheat flour. Those are all, you can say, incomes for, you can say, these factors.
Sir, in the example you used that like government gave 5 rupees subsidy to reduce the price of wheat flour, that is product subsidy, right?
That is product subsidy, correct. So here imagine anybody who is producing wheat flour, for them it has given totally some subsidy which we have just divided among how much they are producing. Ideally it is actually product subsidy only, but we are just considering an example here as whatever subsidies they are giving. If we don't subtract it, we will not know exactly how much total value has been added. You understood this? Any questions in this so far? If you, yeah.
Summation of GVA is actually GDP, no?
Summation of GVA plus you have to add these things. When you add these things only, then you will get this GDP. That means if you don't add product taxes, and you have to add first, imagine GVA at basic prices is what is present right now. If you add these two, that means product taxes and product subsidies negative, then you will get GDP at. Actually, GVA is just a term we use. If we from GDP we remove this, you can say taxes and add subsidies, then it is called GVA. You understood? So far whatever we have seen the GDP here, this is the actual concept. GVA, we are now changing the method towards GVA by removing this from GDP. Because everywhere in the world they are using this GVA, that is why we are also shifting towards GVA, so that it is easier for comparison. Conceptually we are trying to understand it from, you can say, GVA here. You understood?
So basically there is a difference of that taxes in between that factor cost and basic prices.
Yes, correct. So taxes and subsidies, this is the difference between factor cost and basic price. You understood this? Any questions so far?
So can we say GVA at basic price for the GDP at basic price?
GVA at basic price. So GDP is not usually calculated at basic price. It is calculated either at factor cost or market prices. So right now we are considering GDP at market price here. GDP at factor cost means at the factor cost we will take it, only product taxes, product subsidies are not part of it. But production taxes, production subsidies are part of it. But we are not going to call it anymore as GDP. We are calling it as GVA.
So sir, another one, sir, example of production tax and product tax.
Example of production tax. Like I said, imagine we are producing solar panels. Government announces everybody who produces solar panels, earlier normally corporate tax is 30%. You don't have to pay corporate tax at all for 10 years. Then that is giving like almost like giving subsidy or not? Okay, consider a simpler example. For solar panel manufacturing facilities, government starts giving 1 crore. It doesn't matter how many solar panels you produce. Then what type of subsidy is it? It is production subsidy because it is not dependent upon volume. Imagine for anybody who is buying a solar panel, government says 10% the price of the solar panel we will pay, and that is product subsidy. You understood this? So this is on a process of production, whereas this is on each product that is being produced. That is the difference between product and production here.
Sir, can we say that central excise duty is an example of the production tax, whereas the GST is an example of the product tax?
Excise duty, yeah, you can say it is, excise duty is on production process itself. So then all excise is also, you can say, not that. In excise, actually production, basically some type of excise is there on production process itself. Only that particular type of excise duty is on, you can say, this production tax.
Sir, in many government reports currently we have seen that there it is given the GVA, and at some places it is given GDP. Then it is automatically understood that where it is written GVA, they are talking about GVA at basic prices.
Correct. This is the present method of calculation
But
right now.
where it is written GDP, it means GDP at market price.
Correct. Because GDP usually is calculated at market prices only. Imagine right now we saw here, how are we calculating this GDP? We are finally adding up the prices of whatever has happened, and that is how we are getting it. So that means GDP, whenever you can think of it, it is mostly at market prices only. GVA, whenever they are saying GVA, it means they are talking about mostly GVA at basic prices. That is the present method of calculation of, you can say, national income in India. GVA at basic prices. So same thing, whatever is there, it is in the form of, you can say, what you have to add just to get this GDP at market prices finally. We saw what is intermediate good, final good. Similarly, there is a similar terminology for consumer good and capital good. It is a different classification. Consumer good means whatever usually people will buy and consume. People buy things like clothes, food, etc. But capital goods means goods which are usually bought by factories or industries. They are not used for, you can say, normal people, how they consume. This is not how they are going to be used. They are going to be used to produce other goods. Used to produce other goods means used as investment, used as capital to produce other goods. Here we saw even intermediate goods are also going to be used to produce other goods. And here capital goods are also going to be produced with, used to produce other. What is the difference? Difference is, in capital there are two types of capital. Anybody knows what are the types of capital? Okay, that is one classification, correct, risk capital and debt capital. Then there is also working capital and, you can say, what is the other type of capital? working capital and fixed capital. Fixed means, imagine you invest in the factory that is fixed, because factory is going to be there for another 50 years or something. Working capital means you buy metal and you make car out of it, that is working capital. Working capital is this intermediate good, because it is going to be used up in production. After the metal has been used and made into a car, will the metal still exist separately? No. But will the factory still exist separately? Yes, the factory is still there, and that is called as this capital good. You understood? Here capital good is referring to fixed capital, whereas intermediate good is referring to working capital. That means that part of those goods, you can say raw material which will disappear to produce this final good is intermediate good. And this capital good is goods which are of durable character used in the production process, tools, machines. They are not going to disappear. The tools and machines will still be there once the car is made. The same tools and machines are used to make another car. You understood this? So this is basically, this is a different classification, but to understand what exactly is the difference between this capital good and intermediate good, I just explained with an example. Then there is also complementary goods and substitute goods. Complementary means goods which are used together. That means pen and refill. Earlier we used to have some DVD players and DVDs. So anything which you can say you buy it along with whatever you use within it. Phones and SIM cards maybe today, in future maybe we won't have it, but right now you can think of it like this. So these are called as complementary. One cannot be used without the other is complementary good. Then substitute goods, goods which are alternative. That means if one becomes costly, we can buy other thing. Imagine in Bangalore, tea and coffee actually cost same because we grow coffee in Bangalore. But here, I mean in Karnataka. But here coffee is costlier because anywhere near we don't grow coffee, it is far away, and from there they have to bring it. So because coffee is costly, consumption of coffee is relatively lesser and people have shifted towards tea. Only probably 10% people drink coffee, but in Karnataka 50% people drink coffee. Why? Because there is a substitute available at a cheaper cost, and that is why you can say goods which are alternatives, tea and coffee, one gets costly, people move to the other. Imagine tomato becomes 100 rupees, people make brinjal curry that day. Because a substitute is available, they will shift to another substitute. There is no need to use the same product when substitute is available. You understood this? So this is called as substitute good. So this is basically meaning of what is a complementary good, what is a substitute good. Then coming to price elasticity. Elasticity is basically a concept from microeconomics. In NCERT microeconomics it is present. It is not, NCERT microeconomics is not really important, but a few concepts in microeconomics, like we just saw demand, it includes both willingness and ability, and this type of things are important. Elasticity means if one variable affects another variable, then these two variables are called elastic. If there is no impact at all, then they are inelastic. This is meaning of elasticity is very simple. If one is affecting how it is affecting is secondary. It may be affecting positively, negatively, but if it is affecting, then there is elasticity. So here price elasticity means you can see how much people are buying, quantity demanded versus price. Consider, for example, people, if it is costly, we now saw tomatoes, if they are costly, what happens to how much tomatoes people will buy? It is going to be reduced or increased. As tomatoes become costly, people buy less tomatoes. That means, is there a relationship here or not? Yes, there is elasticity, and there is inverse relation. That means as price increases, quantity demanded will reduce. As price keeps increasing, quantity demanded keeps increasing. These are called as normal goods. In any normal good, price and quantity demanded are inversely proportional. Other than normal goods, there are sometimes superior and inferior goods. Consider inferior goods. Inferior means people don't consider them to be good status symbols. Nano car is today, imagine Indian social scenario, it can be considered as inferior good, because people who buy nano cars, they are seeing as if they are owning auto or something. Because of this reason, they don't want to buy it. That means, as you can say, a lower social status has been associated with this car. Because of this reason, people feel that as it becomes, imagine company feels that because it is cost, people are not buying and makes it even cheaper. Then will people buy it? Now what happens to demand? It actually reduces even further, because now if it is cheaper, then everybody else will also buy it. If I buy it, then what is the use of it? You understood this? So in these cases, you can say if it becomes cheaper, demand will further reduce, because one reason why they buy this car itself is as a symbol of, you can say, status. And if it is not signaling that status, then you can say people will not buy that car. This is an inferior good. So there may be other type of, you can say, such products also which people, if they own it, then it itself signals negative status or lower status. Then people will try to reduce buying those things. They are called inferior goods. Then there are superior goods. Superior goods means as the price increases, people will buy more of it. Consider a BMW, or why people buy diamonds? Because it signals status. Diamond is what? It is just a rock. It is shiny, but overall you can say, other than that, it is, why people are buying it? Because you can show to everybody else that you can afford it. Why people are buying maybe Rolls Royce or BMW? BMW actually does everything that is in BMW, including the refrigerator in the car and everything, seat warmer. If you can buy without brand, then probably it costs 50 lakh. But BMW together is costing 1.5 crore. That 1 crore extra people are paying because BMW symbol is present on that, and that signals status. You understood? As things become costlier, people will buy, more demand increases for that particular product because then they can signal to everybody else in society that they can afford it. You understood? These are superior goods. In superior goods and inferior goods also there is elasticity, but the different type of elasticity is present. Everybody understood this price elasticity. In a normal good actually it is, you can say, like this, and in superior goods, inferior goods it is this way. And there are some goods where there is no elasticity at all. Where, consider for example, if salt price reduces, will you add more salt into your sambar? No, because even if it increases, we will not reduce it. That means there is no relationship at all between the price of salt and how much we use it. That means you can say there is no elasticity. Imagine the price of paracetamol reduces, will we take more of it? No, because basically how much our doctor has prescribed, that much we should take. In India maybe it may be different, because in second COVID wave people started taking Dolo as if it is a bubble gum or something. But overall you can see that there are some products where the price will not affect their demand, and that means, so this type of inelastic, you can say, price relationship is also present, price elasticity is also present. Inelastic means, you can say, there is no relationship between the price and consumption. Elastic means these three type of goods, normal good, inferior good, superior good, there is some sort of price elasticity. Price elasticity is the ratio between the percentage change in the quantity demanded or supplied and the corresponding percentage change in price. As price changes, how much quantity is demanded or supplied, as it keeps changing, then there is, you can say, elasticity. Then Veblen good or snob good, a good where an increase in price encourages people to buy more of it. This is actually superior good itself. Another name for superior good is this Veblen good, snob good, etc. Then Giffen good, it is in greater demand as price increases. That means, imagine, as total I have given an example of food here. Imagine food inflation is happening and overall food prices, every food price will increase. Among that, wheat price will also increase. People have less money to buy all the other food, so they will have to buy more of wheat only because they still have to eat. That means what happens to demand for wheat? It is increased even though it is costly, because people don't have other choices. They will all resort to going back to only eating wheat, and that means wheat price will increase because the demand for wheat is even more increasing. So this sort of a good where you can say it is in greater demand as its price increases. If the price of food rises, wheat price increases. It may mean consumers have less money to buy more expensive foods. They will actually be forced to buy more wheat, and wheat price increases. You understand? This is basically Giffen good. Then there is also
what is the difference to basically like Giffen good?
Limitation. Basically Giffen good usually is a basic necessity that people have to use, even though you can say other things have become costly. As a substitute, imagine people cannot buy more vegetables because vegetables have become costly. As a substitute for vegetables, they will eat more of wheat only, and that means demand for this good will further increase, making it, you can say, more costly. Then public good. Public good has to, anything which we consider as public good, usually government provides it, that is why it is called as public good. But nowadays it is possible to contract it out to private sector also, then also it is still public good only. When is it called a public good? There are two conditions that need to be satisfied. First is non-rival consumption. That means my consumption does not affect your consumption. Consider for example road. Just because I am using the road does not mean other people cannot use it. Or just because I am walking in the park does not mean other people cannot walk. That is called as non-rival. It is not rivaling other people's consumption of the same product. Then it is called as non-rival consumption. You understood? This is first thing. Then second, non-excludable. That means I cannot prevent you from consuming a good. Imagine we cannot say only these type of people should enter the park or these people should use the road. Then it is, you can say, non-excludable. If we can exclude some people from using the road, imagine we say only those people who can afford to pay this much toll can use the road. Then it is no longer a public good. Because if it has to be public good, then both conditions have to be satisfied. You understood the conditions here. First is non-rival consumption. That means just because one person is using the road does not mean other people cannot use it. Everybody can use it. So that is non-rival consumption. So probably you can say rivaled consumption means, consider for example, imagine that in a restaurant there is some, they have kept water. You can go inside the restaurant and you can drink it, but usually they will expect you to buy something there. Then there is, you can say, exclusion. That means some people are excluded. Only people who are actually coming into the restaurant and using the restaurant, buying it, they are included. That is example for, you can say, excludable. What is example for rival consumption? If I use it, you cannot use it. Imagine something which is used up by people buying it. If people are buying clothes, then they are using the cloth. Somebody else cannot use it. So that is basically, if people are buying land, they will fence it and only they can use it. Then that is rivaled. Either I can use it or somebody else, I will sell it to someone, they can use it. Everybody cannot use it at the same time. Then that is rivaled consumption. You understood this? Non-rivaled means everybody can use it at the same time, like roads or parks or public property, anything is, you can say. So even non-excludable, government will provide some services. Imagine it will provide a free website where it will give all information. Maybe recently it released some channels where good quality education will be free for all children. 6th standard there is a separate channel, they will keep on doing same in 6th standard classes. So that means here we can see that there is non-rival consumption in this channel or not. Just because I am watching the channel, will other people be able to watch it or not watch it? They can also watch it. That means non-rival condition is satisfied or not? Yes. Non-excluded. That means can I eliminate some people from watching this channel? That is also not possible. Government has opened it, anybody, it is a free channel. That means non-excludable is also present. Then it is a public good. You understood? Even here we are looking at the public good in a broad definition, goods, services, everything. Services provided by the army, the protection by police or protection by army should also be considered as a part of public good only. So merit goods and demerit goods. This is very simple. It is dependent upon externality. Anybody knows what is the meaning of externality? Externality means actually impact on external aspects. Consider for example you are using a car. This car is releasing a lot of carbon dioxide. It has positive or negative externality on the environment. Negative externality means the negative impact on environment. So externality means what type of impact it will have on environment, society or economy also sometimes. So this is what we are talking about as externality. Wherever positive externalities are present, you can say they are called as merit goods. Imagine you set up a hospital or you set up a very good school. Will it have a positive externality on society or negative one? It is also a business, but you are creating a positive impact on society. That means it is a merit good. Imagine you set up a alcohol manufacturing facility or cigarette manufacturing or something, pan or gutka, then it is negative externality, alcohol, cigarette, something which will, imagine you produce more coal. It has negative externality because it will lead to more pollution, it will lead to more pollution and carbon emissions are not same. Pollution is going to affect human beings, whereas carbon emissions will change the temperature of the earth. After that it will also create maybe coal dust and black lung disease and associated problems on human beings, that means society also. So that means you can see this is negative externality. Wherever there are negative externalities, government sometimes imposes some sort of control mechanism on it. These are all examples. Carbon tax on coal, That means whichever is releasing too much of carbon dioxide, we impose extra tax. That is called carbon tax. As of now, there is 400 rupees per ton of tax on coal. Then Kerala government tried out this fat tax. Whichever foods have more than this amount of fat or something percentage, 30% fat or in a burger, then extra tax will be there on that particular product. So that is also because it is creating negative externality on health. Then Pygovian tax is in general any tax that is levied to reduce negative externalities. It's just named as this sort of Pygovian tax. Sin tax. Sin means like alcohol, tobacco. This type of, you can say, things when people buy, that is also called as sin tax. Yeah. Yes, they are demerit goods. Petrol and diesel vehicles can also be considered demerit goods. That is why in India tax on these is very high. In India probably 50%, more than 50% in some cases the product price, the car price is actually tax. If you are buying a 30 lakh car, its original price is probably 13 lakhs only. So many taxes are present on the car. So then these are all, you can say, national income calculations, whatever we saw. What GDP cannot measure? There are some limitations to GDP. GDP is unable to measure inequality in society because it is measuring production, but is it measuring who is producing it? Only Ambani can produce everything that is produced in the economy and still GDP will increase or not, because it doesn't matter who is producing. Only thing for it to matter is, for it to increase is production should happen. So inequality is not measured. Environmental destruction. If we are preserving some trees or forests or something, it will not increase GDP. If we cut down these trees, make this wood into some table or furniture, then GDP will increase. That means environmental destruction will increase GDP, and we are not able to account for the loss of ecosystem services or environmental destruction that is happening. Then subsistence economy or non-monetized. What does it mean when we say subsistence economy? Producing for ourselves. That means imagine some people are growing their own tomatoes, they are not buying. Will it be added to GDP? It won't. It is not added to GDP. We are not able to estimate it. That means how people are, whether they are growing it, whether they are using it. And imagine you are growing tomatoes, your neighbor is growing brinjal, you will share half and half. That is barter. It is also called non-monetized. Non-monetized means you are not using cash. Only if you use cash and do a transaction, something is bought, then they will add it to GDP. If you are not using cash and you are just exchanging goods, one good for another, then it is non-monetized, then it is also not added to GDP. You understood this? So sometimes manipulations are done by governments to show higher growth. Governments will do, why they will do manipulations like this? Because they have promised to people we will achieve 10% growth, 12% growth, somehow they have to show it in the end before elections. So they will do some manipulations. So this sort of manipulation sometimes will show wrong numbers in GDP, and we are unable to prevent it so far. Then illegal underground economy. Imagine somebody is selling cocaine or heroin or something, AK-47 somewhere. Can we add it to GDP? No, we don't have record of all these transactions, first thing. Second thing, even if we have record of it, we will try to ban it. We are not focusing on adding it to GDP. Sale of banned substances, all these things are not added to GDP. So some terms which I discussed, nominal is inflation has not yet been removed, real means inflation has been removed. Nominal minus inflation is real. This is same everywhere, no matter where you see in economy. Whereas gross and net is slightly different. Something has not yet been removed. Net means something has been removed. What exactly that is, it will change from one context to another. In this context, what would we see? Depreciation. In other context, it may be different things. You understood this? So then probably everybody knows sectors of the economy. Primary sector is basic production, agriculture, forestry, mining. Raw materials are natural, then it is called primary sector. That means where is it coming from? It is coming directly from the earth. That is what we call as primary sector. Secondary sector means raw materials are processed. So that means construction sector. We are already using processed cement, steel, all these type of things which have already been extracted and processed. Then it is called secondary sector. And tertiary sector services is value addition that is happening to this manufacturing sector. Secondary sector and primary sector is tertiary. Value addition means, imagine people working in agriculture, manufacturing, they have health problems. Their health is, this is resolved by some doctor. Then that is a value add to this sector or not? Because now this person is healthy, he can contribute more to the economy or not? Consider the person does not have skills. In education, the skill is added. This will increase productivity in secondary sector or not? So tertiary sector is actually a value add, or you can say something extra that is being done to the secondary and primary sector is called as tertiary sector. There is also a quaternary sector where research and development happens, and quintenary sector is controversial. We don't know whether we should consider it or not yet. Quintenary means leadership or management or administration type of, those type of, you can say top level, but top 1% in every organization. They are calling it as quintenary. Everybody has not agreed to it. But quaternary is research and development that happens. You understood this? So in India, according to Indian government's definition, this is general economics definition. According to Indian government, sectors of Indian economy, agriculture means, you can say agriculture, forestry, fishing, these are the 3 sectors. Totally 8 sectors are present according to Indian government, and they have classified it like this. Agriculture means agriculture, forestry, fishing, everything comes under agriculture only. Industry, raw materials are processed mostly, that means some exceptions are present here. Mining and quarrying, actually it is taking raw materials from the earth, but it is still put in industry. So it is actually primary sector. Then electricity, gas, water supply, utilities, manufacturing, construction. You can see manufacturing is a very big sector. That itself is a subset of industry. This construction actually should come into services, but Indian government has considered this to be industry. So if there is a question on industry, this is what is the meaning of industry. In interview, I think yesterday there was one of interview, I was talking to him, he said, they asked a question on what is the difference between manufacturing and industry. This is actually the difference. You can see industry is a bigger circle, whereas manufacturing is a smaller circle within industry. You understood this? So services improves processes in agriculture and industry. That means, like I said, in both of them we try to improve the process. Real estate, finance, professional services, public. So whatever is present here is according to actually Indian government's definition of the 3 sectors. Same thing I have given here. So far we have seen this GDP. Who is actually calculating GDP? The Central Statistical Organization, NSSO and CSO, they were merged together to create this NSO in 2019. And this NSO is who actually calculates this GDP. It will calculate quarterly also and annually also. So as of now, this NSO, National Statistical Office, is responsible for calculation of GDP. Then there is, you can say, some concerns about what is happening as of now. So slowdown, recession and depression, what exactly is the difference between them? Slowdown, when growth is lower than previous years, but it is not negative. Imagine last year's growth was some 8%. This year's growth is 7%. Next year growth 7.5, 6%, 6.5. Here you can see a general trend. Growth is still happening or not? 6% growth means growth is still happening. What exactly is the problem then? Growth is slowing down. The rate of growth is reducing. Imagine car is moving at 60 miles an hour in first, second, 60 kilometers, 40 kilometers, 20. Car is still moving, but it is slowing down. That means the rate of movement of this car, that is what is slow down here. And recession, negative growth rate or shrinking GDP of 2 consecutive quarters. Negative means last year we produced 100 rupee worth of goods, this year 90, next year 80. That means actual shrinking, that means negative growth is happening. So growth is not happening at all. In fact, negative means reduction has happened compared to last year. Then we call it as recession if at least for 2 consecutive quarters. Quarter means what? 1/4 of a year, 3 months is a quarter, 2 consecutive quarter means 6 months. There should be lower production. Then depression, extreme recession usually last 3 or more years and 10% or more reduction in GDP. This is what we call as depression. This is, you can say, the difference between what exactly is a slowdown, recession and depression.
In recession, we are seeing 2 consecutive negative growth. So is it like compared to immediate 6 months or compared to the last year's quarter?
2 consecutive quarters, okay. You are saying comparison, how it should happen. Comparison will always happen on quarter. Last quarter to this quarter, because in every country, these economic cycles are different. Imagine in Diwali season, whatever sale happens, that is not the same in next quarter. So last year's Diwali quarter should be compared to this year's Diwali quarter only. You cannot compare it to some other quarter, then it will show wrong numbers. You understood this? So that is why usually quarter on quarter, year on year is compared. It is not with previous quarter that we compare. You understood? So then I've just given, you can say, summary of all the graphs in Indian economy at one place so that you get some clarity on this. First is Kuznets curve. Kuznets curve talks about, you can say, inequality first increases as income per capita, means as the country's growth keeps increasing, first inequality increases, and then at one point, because of, you can say, some sort of effect, he called it as some sort of trickle down effect. From here on, all the rich people in the country, their wealth will trickle down to other people, and then inequality starts reducing. You understand? First, income per capita is increasing, income is increasing among people, but inequality is increasing, means only few people are becoming richer. At one point, when enough number of people are rich, all the other people, this wealth starts getting distributed to all the other people, also inequality reduces. This is what Kuznets had said. But I think in 2014 or 15, Thomas Piketty did some research. Everybody probably has heard of Piketty. I mean, if you have studied any textbook, it will be there. Thomas Piketty did a study. He took last 200 years of economic data of all the countries, and he verified whether this Kuznets curve is true. He wrote a book, Capital in the 21st Century, and in that he showed inequality curve is actually like this, and it is not like this. That means inequality as time progresses, it just keeps on going up. It is going up, and it is not actually coming down at all. There is no sign of actual decline. If you look at data, this is just wishful thinking that in future it may happen, but right now looking at data, inequality is only increasing and it is not reducing. You understood? He got Nobel Prize in, I think it was 2014 or 15, I don't remember. When he got Nobel Prize, UPSC asked an essay, can capitalism ensure inclusive growth? Because of this whole debate whether pure type of capitalism which is increasing inequality, will it be able to actually reduce inequality in future? You understood? So recently, a variation of this Kuznets curve is in news, environmental Kuznets curve. They are saying that level of environmental degradation first will increase as economy develops, and once it reaches a certain level of development, it will start reducing. That means post-industrial, as industrial needs will reduce and mostly service sector based economy will increase. Service based, it means people will all shift towards things which are not non-polluting. Most of the people are shifting towards more, you can say, buying software products or software services or something which does not require the same amount of carbon emissions. So you can see as people shift more and more towards some sort of service based economy, from pre-industrial economies to industrial economies to post-industrial, you can see that environmental degradation that happens keeps reducing. This is what we call as environmental Kuznets curve. Here also there is a debate whether this is possible. So in post-industrial economies, we are making an assumption that we will be able to use technology to be able to reduce our carbon emissions. So we don't know whether it is actually true yet. So there are debates and you can say controversies regarding this environmental Kuznets curve also. Everybody understood how it is working? Any questions on this environmental or normal Kuznets curve?
So can we say Kuznets curve is an ideal case and Piketty curve is a practical case?
Yes, this Piketty is actually based on data. It is description of reality. Where here he is just assuming, making assumptions. Based on assumptions he has drawn a theory. Theory he has given, and this is based on data. So then Laffer curve probably everybody has seen. Laffer curve is difference, I mean, if you plot the graph between tax rate and tax revenue, imagine we keep increasing tax rate. That means tax rate 5%, 10% to 15, 20%. Our revenue also keeps increasing because we are collecting more tax. But at one point, imagine here rate is 30%. Imagine we go to 35%, 40%. After this, actually how much tax we are collecting keeps reducing. Why does it keep reducing? Because of tax evasion. Why people are evading taxes? Because they don't want to pay that 40% tax. Until 25%, 30%, 20% they will feel they are not very happy about it, but somehow grudgingly they will pay the tax. But if it is 50%, 60%, 70%, then they will feel it is better to go to other country or evade taxes, pay more money for chartered accountants to find ways to avoid this tax or something. This will lead to total reduction of total tax collected. This is what we call as Laffer curve. So it shows the relationship between tax revenue and tax rate. In India, Niti Aayog has suggested we are somewhere here. That means what should we do to increase tax revenue? we should actually reduce the tax rates. That means overall government is in that type of, you can say, mode where it is trying to reduce tax rates in the last 10 to 15 years. Temporarily here and there they have increased it and then gone back to reduction. Overall we are in a reduction phase only. Then there is one more RAN curve. This RAN curve is important recently because after COVID there has been a question on how much government should actually go for impetus, how much government spending should actually happen in the economy. So you can see government spending, if it keeps increasing at until one point, you can say economic performance increases. But beyond this point, if government spending keeps on increasing, then economic performance will reduce. Because if government has to increase its spending, where should the money come from? It should either come from tax, where they are collecting tax from people. That means if it is coming from tax, people will have less money or more money. If people have less money, what happens to demand in the economy? If demand decreases, what happens to economic performance? So that means we can tax only until a certain limit without creating negative impact on economy. And imagine another case is government can take loans. If it is taking loans, who is actually giving loans to government? Mostly in India it is banks are buying government securities and maybe people are also buying government securities. Imagine all the savings of people are going towards government. And government, what does it do with this money? It will spend it on maybe infrastructure, maybe something, maybe welfare schemes. But if all the savings of the economy, totally if 100 rupees worth of savings are present in the economy, majority of it, 70% will go to government. How much is remaining for private sector? Only 30% is remaining for private sector, which will use it for production. What happens to production then? Production will reduce. You can see that after a certain point, government expenditure, if it keeps increasing, it is going to reduce both demand and production supply also. And that means it creates a negative impact on economy. You understood this?
So can you say China's example post-COVID is an example where they have crossed this optimum limit?
Yes. So whether they have crossed this optimum limit is a matter of debate. They are saying we have not crossed it. Other countries may opine that they have crossed it. In India also, Niti Aayog has actually said that we should spend more. Some other chief economic advisor said not that much. So that means internally itself there is debate on what exactly is this point. How much should we spend? You understood this? So this is RAN curve. Then Phillips curve probably is popular, everybody would probably know it. So between inflation and unemployment, there is this Phillips curve. As you can say, unemployment keeps increasing. Unemployment keeps increasing means number of people who are employed, it keeps reducing. As number of people who are employed keeps reducing, what happens to the total income that people are getting? That will also reduce. As income reduces, what happens to demand? As demand reduces, what happens to inflation? Inflation will also reduce. Same, it is a simple logic, everybody probably is aware of it already. As unemployment increases, inflation reduces. As unemployment decreases, inflation. As unemployment reduces means, imagine more and more people are employed. If more and more people are employed, then more and more people are getting more and more money into their hands. If lot of people have lot of money in their hands, what happens to demand? As demand increases, what happens to prices of products? Increases. That is what we call as inflation. You understood? So the same thing you can look at it in another way. Everybody probably has read about virtuous cycle. It is there in NCERT book. Virtuous cycle and vicious cycle. Virtuous cycle starts from demand. As demand increases, production increases. As production increases, employment increases. As employment increases, further people have money, more money, income increases. So as income increases, again demand increases. This is a virtuous cycle. So in this virtuous cycle, you can see if unemployment is increasing, that means what happens here to demand? Demand decreases. If demand decreases, production decreases. If production decreases, growth itself decreases. Growth and inflation, how are they related? Usually, growth and inflation are directly related. This part probably you will see again in static topics again, but growth and inflation are directly related. Imagine if growth reduces, inflation will also reduce. So this virtuous cycle actually is the central law to the entire Indian economy as a subject in UPSC, because everything we do at macroeconomy level, we do it to ensure that virtuous cycle is present, it is stable, it is not going out of this. Everything is somehow linked back to virtuous cycle only. Then coming to Lorentz curve. So Lorentz curve measures how much is the inequality in society. This, it is very simple. From here, cumulative percentage of population 0 to 20, this is poorest, 0 to 20% poorest of the population. If you see, if they have 20% of the wealth, then ideal level of inequality. 40% population have 40% wealth, ideal level of inequality. 60% population, if you see, actually they have only 20% wealth. 60% population, if they have 20% wealth, then inequality is high or low? It is high. So you can see, the more it sags into downwards, the more inequality is in society. This is what is this Lorentz curve. You understand? It shows inequality in society. The more closer it is to the central line, the less inequality is. The more away from it is from the central line, the more inequality is in society. This is what Lorentz curve shows. Then there is also Gini coefficient. This Gini coefficient is this area A1 whatever is there divided by, if you add up A1, A2 both, then you will get a number that is called as Gini coefficient. It will also show inequality in society. So here you can see names of the actual things. Actual income distribution is this, perfect equality is this, and inequality gap means the difference between this actual income distribution and this perfect equality. And if you add up this, you can say Gini coefficient, you can see the area A divided by area A plus area B, that is Gini coefficient. Everybody understood what is Lorentz curve and Gini coefficient? If you remember it visually like this, you can answer majority of questions in UPSC, because they will ask based on this area. Using this in your mind, you can answer the question. So then in news you might have seen about V-shaped recovery, U-shaped recovery, etc. All the shapes, basically different shapes of recovery curves. Is GDP was actually going like this, that means it was going normally. Then because COVID happened, suddenly we had reduction. How fast, if we recover very quickly from this, then that is called V-shaped recovery. Quick recovery, immediate growth decline, followed by quick global recovery. That means sudden decline and sudden recovery is V-shaped. U-shaped means somehow we are sluggish, slowly we will recover, and that is U-shaped. Global slowdown, shrinking growth with slow return. Then W-shaped means we slightly recover, then something else, second wave comes. Then in third wave if it comes, then instead of W it will become triple U or something. But right now you can just think of it as, if W-shaped means multiple waves are there here, rebounds, and then we slowly come out of this. Then L-shaped means we are in some sort of a severe decline, we are unable to get out of it because of various reasons. First there is COVID, and then there is Ukraine-Russia war, and you can say some countries have gone into this L or some sleeping line completely. You can say it is a dead economy. So these are basically different scenarios for how fast we can recover from a major crisis like COVID. You understood this? K-shaped recovery. So K-shaped is in news because some sectors, what has happened to some sectors is when we declined rapidly, some sectors have recovered quickly, but other sectors are going for this L. Both diverging is happening. Why some sectors are going like this? Because there is a behavioral change that happened during COVID in people. Because imagine children who were sending their children to parents who were sending their children to preschool, now they are somewhat feeling that we can do some sort of homeschooling until there is no need to send them to kindergarten or some other, you can say whatever, Montessori. They are directly sending them to UKG or first standard or something. This sector entirely is hit. People who used to go out every single week to restaurants, they are going, because they are used to it now in this entire 2 years, not going out anywhere. So they are going once in 2 weeks. Then what happens to the demand in this sector? The demand has reduced rapidly. So this is, you can say, people are not going to theaters as much as they used to go, because now they are already used to, you can say, watching movies on Netflix or something. That means this behavioral change that happened in 2 years is leading to decline in some sectors, whereas other sectors are booming rapidly. This sort of divergence in recovery is K-shaped recovery. You understood this? So any questions so far? So we'll take a break here for 5 minutes. Okay, 15 minutes, and we'll meet after 15 minutes. That means 6:40. Welcome back, everyone. So we saw so far all the graphs that are important in Indian economy, and we saw different shapes of recovery curves. We had to continue from ICOR. ICOR is incremental capital output ratio. We already saw what is the meaning of capital. 4 factors of production, what are they? Land, labor, capital and entrepreneurship. Capital is a factor of production, it means investment. Capital output ratio. Output means how much production is happening is output. Capital to output. Imagine you invest 100 rupees and you are getting output of 200 rupees. This is capital to output ratio. But total investment that has happened in the country, to calculate it is very difficult. Just like we saw with regard to GDP, total stock of, you can say, production that has happened is, so that means what we do is, instead of identifying, you can say, total capital invested, we just want to identify this year how much extra capital has been invested. Imagine is 100 rupees. Because we have added this much capital, how much extra output is happening because of this. Incremental capital output ratio means ratio of investment to growth. How much investment is happened, and because of this how much growth is happening. If ICOR is low, higher productivity of capital. That means just by investing 1 rupee, you can produce extra more, then ICOR is low. Imagine you are investing 10 rupees, but you are still producing less. It means that you can see there is productivity of capital is poor. Your investment is more. Consider for an example the same car making factory. Already there are some machines to make cars. Right now you are buying one more machine. To buy one more machine you invested 100 rupees. Because you have invested 100 rupees, you are able to make 1000 rupees extra. That means right now capital output ratio is, you can say, 100 divided by this 1000. So just by investing extra 100 rupees, because you are able to make 1000, there is higher productivity of capital. Each rupee is able to bring 10 rupees more, then higher productivity of capital. Imagine you invested 100 rupees, but you are making only 100 rupees more, then each rupee is able to produce 1 more rupee only, then lower productivity of capital, that is high ICOR. ICOR and productivity of capital are inversely related. So this is the meaning of incremental capital output ratio. ICOR in a country, what usually makes it higher or lower? Infrastructure. In a country, because infrastructure sometimes is good or bad, based on that ICOR will change. Government rules and regulations will also change this ICOR. Recently government has created data localization or some law where you have to store a copy of data in India. To store a copy of data in India, do they have to spend more money or not? But will it create any extra output for them? No. Investment has increased but output has not increased. What happens to ICOR? ICOR has increased, that means lower productive. You understood this? So that means compliance costs increasing, infrastructure being poor, all these type of things will affect ICOR, and that means it will affect, you can say, productivity of capital. You understood this?
So,
yeah.
can we also see it as the marginal productivity of that particular unit of capital?
Yes, you can say marginal usually means the extra unit whatever you are investing, how much returns it will. Extra rupee if you invest in the same factory, how much more rupee will it bring? So you can think of it like this. It is same, concept is same. So this is, you can say, these are all some important topics in general which are somewhat from prelims perspective, these type of questions are asked in exam. So in textbook also, when you are doing revision, you will be able to identify these type of questions. Now we'll take, probably today and tomorrow we'll take fiscal policy, monetary policy, important topics for revision. So in monetary policy, actually a lot of questions are asked in monetary policy in prelims every year, even probably this year also they will ask them. Why so many questions from monetary policy only? Because monetary policy is slightly more complex compared to other topics in economy. If they can understand that you have understood monetary policy, then it means that you have good understanding hold over entire economy, because complexity in monetary policy is comparatively higher compared to others. In answering one question of this, they can understand that you can answer 3-4 other questions also easily. That is why they are asking. So in 2012 questions in prelims, that means we are talking not about, you can say, economy. 12 questions in entire prelims were from a single, you can say, topic, that is monetary policy. So here first thing is about money, probably you would have already studied it. It began with barter system. In barter, from there you can say it evolved to currency notes and bank money, even cryptocurrency. A little bit about all these things you will already know. In barter system, what is the biggest problem? Double coincidence of wants, you would have studied in NCERT book. Double coincidence of want means, imagine this person is A, this person is B. What this person has, he should want. What this person has, he should want. When both of them coincide, only then this transaction can take place. If they don't coincide, then the transaction cannot take place. This is called as double coincidence of wants. So in barter system this problem existed, and fungibility was also a problem. Fungibility means division and mutual substitution. As of now you can divide a 2000 rupee note into 4 500 rupee notes without any loss. But imagine in barter system you bring a horse and you say I want a goat. He says, you imagine 4 goats is equal to 1 horse. Can you cut the horse into 1/4 and still remain with the same value? Horse will lose value once you cut one of its leg or something. That means it is non-fungible. Fungible means when you cut it, it should not lose value. When you cut the 2000 rupee note, it won't lose value because, cutting is not literal. If you convert it into 500 rupee notes, it will not lose value. That is fungibility. In barter system, we had that problem. So we shifted to commodity money. Commodity money means seashells, bear pelts, cocoa beans, all these type of things were used as money. So in commodity money, we were able to solve this problem of double coincidence of wants, and you can say all these type of things. But commodity money had their own problems. Like for example, perishability. You can keep cocoa beans, but some cat will eat it or something else will happen. That means there is storage problem, or you can say perishability means you cannot store it for decades together. No, you can say commodity we were able to store. So we shifted to metallic money. Gold, for example, you keep it for 1000 years, nothing will happen to it. So that is the reason why we shifted to gold, silver, copper coins. You might have seen in Indus Valley civilization and such, people used to wear punch marked coins to their neck, etc. So that is metallic money. Metallic money created actually a revolution in economy, and everybody started trading more and more because metallic money had now all the advantages that whatever problems were there, everything was solved. As trade increased, then we were able to see actual problems in metallic money, that it was not possible for easy carrying of this metallic. Imagine huge amount of gold you are carrying in some Silk Road or something when you are trading with other country. Then some bandits will attack your caravan and take all this gold. That means carrying of this metallic money was difficult. So after a few, you can say, we faced this type of problems. Then we realized that we have to find another alternative, and we came up with paper money. Paper money means it was originally a promissory note. I promise to pay the bearer a sum of some rupees. One person has signed, another person will also sign, and seal, signature, everything will be present. And this money is actually kept in some trustworthy type of institutions, maybe sometimes religious institutions, churches, mosques, temples, etc. We keep the money there, and then we go to another person and we give this note, and this person will bring the note to this church, and then he will take it, or temple, and he will take it, etc. So this sort of promissory notes were there. Now this promissory note, once you sign it, seal it, only then it is useful. Before that somebody steals it, it is not useful. This was the situation. Somehow we solved this problem of stealing of cash, metallic money. And then after this, you can say all these institutions, the trust started shifting more and more towards government. Governments became powerful. In India, kings were there originally, and then you can say it led to government, British government, and then Indian government. So once these governments came into picture, government became the sole authority of holding all this gold. Imagine all our gold, instead of being in a temple or something, it has all moved into RBI now. And RBI, now whatever we used to issue this cash, we used to write these promissory notes, RBI itself has issued this, because you can say it is much more simpler, and also it is easier for transactions. Transaction cost has reduced it now because you don't need to write and sign a promissory note every time. This is how you can say currency is working. Ideally now what should happen is all the gold should be with RBI, and we should have only this paper note. What is giving value to this paper note then? Ideally what should give value is gold in RBI. But then what happened to this gold was, when First World War was fought, they realized that people have forgotten about this gold already. Multiple centuries have occurred, and nobody is coming and asking for this gold anyway. People were only transacting in these notes. Then after First World War, for recovery of the world economy quickly, they felt we can print a little more currency compared to whatever gold we have, and they started printing more, and this was called as proportional reserve system. So here you can see gold backed currency is, if 1 kg gold is there, we can print only whatever. Imagine 60 lakh is 1 kg is worth, 60 lakh only we can print. Proportional backing is second part. If 1 kg gold 60 lakh, then 1 crore also was printed after First World War. This is called as proportional backing. After Second World War, this is even increased to little more extra printing. And in 1970s, Richard Nixon as president of USA completely cut off the link between how much gold is present with central bank and how much money it is actually printing. Since then, we call our currency as fiat currency. Right now, gold is not giving value to this currency, it is just a piece of paper. Then why are we considering it valuable? What makes it valuable? Authority of government, the trust that we have on government is what makes it valuable. Based on trust of government, that is why it is called as fiat currency. So, in barter system we saw all these type of problems were there, and so we shifted to different types of metallic currency, and then we came to fiat currency. Fiat currency is paper money with no intrinsic value. It is called fiat only if it is issued by government. If somebody else issues it, it is not called fiat. Fiat means we are talking about trust on government only. It is valuable because government has promised. Current system in India is actually fiat, but as a symbolic measure we have just kept 200 crores of gold and foreign securities, or you can say foreign currencies, just as a symbol. Symbol means it is not useful in any way for us, just to remember our past, that we have kept some earlier times, we have kept reserve like this. Now also it is called minimum reserve system. Since 1956 we have maintained it. 200 crore worth reserve, 115 crore worth of gold, 85 crore worth of foreign currencies, we just keep it in RBI, we don't use it. Normally in money in circulation is in lakhs of crores, compared to that it is very small amount, so we just keep it as a symbolic measure. Now you understood what is meaning of fiat currency. To be fiat currency, what is the precondition? It has to be printed by a government. If somebody else prints it, it is not. If Shahid Kapoor prints it, it is not fiat currency. Only if you can say government prints it, it is fiat currency. So legal tender, first it has to be fiat currency. Once it is fiat currency, some fiat currency can be declared as legal tender by government. How to declare it as legal tender? The government will identify this particular legal tender, list it in Coinage Act 2011. There is a list of all legal tender present in India in Coinage Act 2011. If it is listed in Coinage Act 2011, then it is legal tender. If it is not listed, then it is not legal tender. Fiat currency means printed by government. Legal tender means among these fiat currencies whatever is listed, first it has to be fiat currency, then only it is listed as legal tender. So fiat currency based on trust on government is legal tender when by law we have to accept it for transactions. That means there is a definition clearly in Coinage Act. A creditor is under compulsion to accept in settlement of his claims. Creditor and debtor, what is the meaning of this? Creditor means whoever has given loan is creditor, whoever has taken loan is debtor. But in economics it is not always loan, it is not a narrow term. Creditor, debtor in economics is a broad term. Imagine you go to a restaurant and eat masala dosa, then you are debtor until you pay the bill and they are the creditors. You understood? You get into an auto rickshaw and you get down somewhere, then he is the creditor and you are the debtor until you pay the bill. So creditor and debtor here means anybody who is about to receive, yet to receive money is a creditor. Anybody who has not yet paid money is a debtor. You understood? A creditor is under compulsion to accept in settlement of his claim. He has a claim on you. Imagine you ate masala dosa, 100 rupee, his claim is on you. And you can pay this 100. Imagine you pay it in 10 rupee coins. He says, I won't accept 10 rupee coins. 10 rupee coin is present in the list of legal tender, and if he refuses it, then it is illegal. You can go to court. Nobody goes to court for 10 rupees, so that is why they are not going. But otherwise, you have the authority to go to court. You understood this? So, a creditor is under compulsion to accept in settlement of his claims is the definition given for legal tender. Once it is there in the list of legal tender, people cannot refuse it, saying that I won't accept this thing. So once declared legal tender, you cannot reject it in any transaction. Some people don't accept 10 rupee coins, this you might have seen somewhere, it is illegal if they don't accept it. This question is from 2018. Which one of the following correctly describes the meaning of legal tender money? Money which is tendered in courts of law to defray fee of legal cases. True or false? False. Imagine you have never heard of legal tender. This will seem like it is true. This is a trap set by UPSC. This is what it looks like when you read it. So that means if you know the answer, then you can answer. If you don't know it, then sometimes this sort of traps are, you can say, it will lead to negative marks. Money which a creditor is under compulsion to accept in settlement of his claims. True. This is true. Okay, most probably. Bank money in the form of checks, drafts, bills of exchange. So bank money means who should have issued this first to be fiat currency? Government should have issued it. Draft or bill of exchange check is not issued by government. So it is not at all fiat currency. If it is not fiat currency, can it be legal tender? No. That means this is not. Metallic money in circulation. Metallic money in circulation is issued by who? Government. And it is probably there in the list of legal tender also. So this is also a contender here. Now go back to the question. Which of the following correctly describes the meaning? Describes the meaning is what? We are not talking about examples of a you can say legal tender. We are talking about exactly what is the definition or meaning of it. Then that means which is the correct answer. So this is how you can, whenever you have confusion, go read the question again. Because you are not reading the question, probably you are making 3 or 4 extra questions wrong. Make sure you read the question again for every question. If you are answering your question paper within 1.5 hours, then probably you have to read the question again. That means I used to finish the paper in 1 or 10 minutes or something. Then I started rereading the question. Every time I answered the question and about to go to the next question, I just reread the question. Then 3 or 4 extra questions I used to make it right because of this change in process of how I answer the questions. You understood this? Consider the following statements. This is CDS 2011. In India, minimum denomination coin acceptable for transaction is 50 paisa. So actually what we did was 25 paisa, we made it non-legal tender in 2011. That means minimum is now how much? So this is a current affairs question because it was asked in 2011 itself. Coins below 50 paisa is not legal tender. True or false? True. Both statements are same. Here they are testing whether you understand the meaning of this term legal tender or not. You understood? So here answer is both. Then coming to seigniorage. Seigniorage means RBI as of now prints 2000 rupee note and it costs 4 rupees to RBI to print it. But it is able to give it a value of what? 2000. That means how much profit is it making? The remaining 1996 rupees whatever it is making is profit, and that is what we call as seigniorage. You understood this? So RBI prints this currency and remaining extra money whatever it makes, that is called seigniorage. Here about printing of currency you have to understand one thing. Why if it is fiat currency, why are we not printing unlimited currency? If you print too much currency, it will lead to inflation. If you print, imagine double the currency, then everything will double in price, then there is no use of printing this much currency. It will cause inflation is from citizens' perspective. From government's perspective, what exactly happens when we print more currency? Who has this currency? Government has it currency because who can print it is RBI and government, they have this currency. That means people's purchasing power has reduced because of inflation. Government's purchasing power will increase because government has this cash. That means it is almost as if government has taxed people or not. You can see that printing of currency is implicit taxation because even though explicitly they are not taxed people, the net effect is same. People's purchasing power reduces, government's purchasing power increases. You understood this? So this seigniorage, whatever profit is actually whatever purchasing power of government that increases. Then cryptocurrency, you would have seen in news, it uses blockchain technology which is called decentralized distributed ledger. Long story short of this entire blockchain technology is very simple. Right now how any transaction happens is if one person sends money to another person, then what exactly happens in the background? Your phone pay or Google Pay app, what it will do is it will send the request to bank. Bank will send the request to RBI. RBI will have a database about who all has accounts and how much money is present. It will change the database and then send the money to another bank and they will send it and you will get it into your account. You understood? So these transactions are going through as of now RBI. RBI is the central hub for every you can say transaction that happens throughout the country. Imagine as of now if RBI is in Bangladesh, what happened is in Bangladesh central bank, some hacker what he did was he took 50 paisa from everybody's account and sent a message saying bank charges 50 paisa cut. Then he did it for 50-60 times throughout you can say 3-4 years and approximately 150 million US dollars was lost from entire Bangladesh. Nobody knows even today who actually did it. That means it is possible through hacking the entire central database, it is possible to destabilize the economic system or not. Imagine he was a benign type of hacker, he only wanted money. Somebody else could have erased the entire data and what would have happened to Bangladesh's economy? It would lead to total collapse. That means you can see that there is a risk here if you concentrate entire data in a single database. To reduce this vulnerability, to reduce this risk, instead of having a single database, we will have multiple copies of databases. Who will have these copies? Everybody, whoever uses cash will have this copy. Imagine I am sending money to another person, instead of only RBI's database being updated, every single person whoever using everybody's data gets updated, then I will get the money. This is called as blockchain. Decentralized means everybody has the power to initiate transactions. Distributed We don't have a single database, we have multiple databases. Ledger means what? Ledger is a database. Before computers, we used to have a fat book, attendance register or something. That is what we call as a database or ledger. Nowadays, we don't write in books anymore, we put everything on a computer, so it is easy. You understand? Decentralized means we have this copy of this database with so many people. No. Imagine now a hacker wants to hack it. He can only hack one node, maybe two nodes, two people. It is not possible to have 10 million people at the same time. We don't have the technology yet. It probably takes, in today's estimates, it is going to take 25-30 years by the time we can hack everybody. It is not theoretically impossible, but today's technology will not allow it. You understand this? So basically this is the meaning of blockchain. Using this blockchain, if we create currency, that is called as cryptocurrency. Everybody understood how this blockchain is working. So cryptocurrency uses blockchain technology. The first cryptocurrency that was created was Bitcoin. As of now, you might have read about Bitcoin, Ethereum, a lot of other cryptocurrencies are present. So some news about this cryptocurrency that has happened in the last 1.5 years. RBI had initially warned against Bitcoin use. Yes Bank started using blockchain internally. Blockchain is only the underlying technology, having multiple databases. They can use it for anything. In fact, blockchain can be used not just for cash. Imagine it can be used for land records. Andhra Pradesh government is using it for, how it will be used for land records. Imagine all the people who own land, they will have a database in their computer or their phone, digital device. And now what they can do is every time any land transaction, one person buys land from another person. Instead of government database alone being updated, nowadays there is no, imagine in Andhra Pradesh there will be no single government database. Instead of that, there are totally 5 lakh people who own land. All these 5 lakh people's databases will get updated. So what is the advantage if so many databases get updated? They can be now confident that it is impossible to manipulate this database or not. Because in India it is not very difficult. If you give some bribe to some person, some clerk, they will change this database somewhere in a computer of government. But right now they can be absolutely sure that this cannot happen. And that means the confidence on land ownership is higher or not? Yes. So that is the advantage created by blockchain. Blockchain eliminates the need for trust. We don't need to trust RBI or central bank or somebody else, government and its database handling mechanism. We don't need to trust because it is impossible to manipulate it. You understood this? RBI is creating central bank digital currency. This I have given somewhere, we will see. Then RBI banned cryptocurrencies, but Supreme Court said that if you have to ban it, you have to show some clear cause why you are banning it. Otherwise, it will be a violation of Article 21, right to liberty of citizens. Then RBI said it will create negative impact. Has it created negative impact? Yet it has not created. Then they said when it creates, at that time we will reconsider the question again. Right now, it has not created, so you can't ban it. You understood this? So they are currently treated as virtual digital assets under Income Tax Act. There is no ban on it yet, and there is no, it is not legal. We cannot call it as legalized also. It is happening and it is not illegal. So we felt that if it is not illegal, let us tax it, and government is taxing 30% whatever you gain. They are called as virtual digital assets. That means you buy anything online, you sell online. Game coins, you buy it, you sell it. Or you buy Ethereum, buy online, sell it. Doesn't matter. You buy a painting online and sell it. Even that will also come under, you can say, this virtual digital asset. Mostly people are doing trade-off, you can say, this sort of currencies only. But anything else, if you buy NFTs or something, that also will come under this virtual digital assets. Look at this question about Bitcoin. Find the correct statements about Bitcoin. So this correct and incorrect also, probably many of you will make mistakes. If you don't correct this process, in exam actually you will be under more pressure than normal mock test. In exam what happens is these type of mistakes will recur, how much ever you try to avoid them. So to prevent that, you have to change the process of answering the question itself. How to change the process? Just identify wherever correct is there, you identify it, underline it. Incorrect is there, you circle it or something. Create some sort of a convention like this in every question. It is going to take some effort, because in every question if you have to search for incorrect or correct, but still it is going to help you not lose that maybe 1 or 2 marks in the exam. So it is correct, okay, find correct statements. It is a decentralized virtual currency. It is true or false? It is true. If one is true, which one can you eliminate? C. It is generated through complex computer software systems. It is also true. If 2 is true, which one can you eliminate? 2 has to be true. So RBI recognized it as legal tender in 2016. This is false, because if it has to be legal tender, it has to be first fiat currency. It is not fiat currency, it is not legalized. So that means you can say Answer is B. Now coming to central bank digital currency. So central bank felt that, see, instead of everybody moving away from central bank, right now there is no need for central authority, means there is no need for RBI also. RBI felt that we have to somehow maintain control, otherwise we cannot have our own monetary policy, or you can say we cannot control money supply in the economy. So what RBI did was, people don't understand this level of detail with regard to blockchain, by Bitcoin, everything. Why are they buying it? They are buying it because value is increasing, decreasing, all these things are happening, we can make money out of it. So RBI felt that if we can create something that we can control, yet provide same service to people, then people will invest in that instead of, you can say, buying Bitcoin. So central bank digital currency was created, it is issued with sovereign authority. That means government issues it with, you can say, sovereign guarantee, controlled by monetary policy. Government, RBI can control its supply in the economy through monetary policy. Liability on central bank, no need to have a bank account. Liability on central bank means all currency is a liability on central bank. If you open a 2000 rupee note, it is written, I promise to pay the bearer of this note a sum of 2000 rupees. It is a liability on RBI or not? All notes are liability on RBI. Similarly, even central bank digital currency, even though there is no physical note, it will still be treated as liability on RBI. It is legal tender. Legal tender means it has been declared as fiat currency and has been put into the list of 2011 Coinage Act legal tender. Even though it does not physically exist, it is only digital currency, and it uses blockchain. It uses blockchain because people will get confidence that, okay, it is similar to other, blockchain based type of technology. It is two-tier. That means RBI will create it. Two-tier means there are a lot of there are a lot of banks in India. People will actually be able to invest and buy and sell and all these things only through the bank, and then it will go, request will go to RBI. This is the meaning of, people will not be able to do it directly through RBI. That is what is called two-tier. Indirect also, two-tier indirect they have given in RBI circular. This is the meaning. Then it is non-remunerative. That means no interest is given. If you imagine, normally if you deposit money in the bank, what happens? You will get interest. But if you deposit this central bank digital currency, you don't get any interest. You understood this? So this is what we know so far about central bank digital currency. They are yet to make some other decisions, more decisions with regard to how this will work. That part, remaining parts, they have not yet released it. When they release it, we will know about it. Then coming to banking, what exactly is a bank? There is a depositor who deposits money. Somebody who takes a loan will take a loan from this, you can say. Depositor, why is he depositing? Because he is also getting some interest. Imagine he is getting 4%. Somebody who takes a loan, he is paying how much? He is paying little more to the bank. Why bank is doing all these things? So that it will make this, whatever difference is there between this 4 and 8%, at 4% bank will make it. This is the business of almost all the banks in the world. This is how they began. Some banks, you can say, have been given permission. Recently Silicon Valley Bank collapsed. They collapsed because depositors' money was not just used for buying, you can say, giving loans. In India, this much only is allowed. But in USA, it is allowed to invest in some assets also. That means they bought something and the value of that reduced. If the value of that reduced, if depositor asks the money back, will they be able to give it? No. And then the bank run happens and bank collapses. So asset and liability of a bank. Asset and liability means whatever makes money for the bank is an asset. Whatever loses money for the bank is a liability. In this case, what is an asset for a bank? Loans are assets for the bank because loans will give money. Liabilities are deposits because for depositors, they have to pay money. So that is, you can say, difference between asset and liability. NDTL means, imagine you add up all the demand liability, time liability. Demand liability means whenever you demand the money, they should give the money back. Current account and savings account, you might have, you can say, seen in banks, they are called demand liabilities. And time liability means fixed deposit. This fixed deposit, recurring deposit, etc., which we will get only after a certain time period, is called as a time deposit. So this total demand and time liabilities means both fixed deposit, time, you can say current account, savings account, everything, if you add up, that is total demand and time liabilities. From this, if you remove loans given to other banks, that means imagine one bank has given loans to other banks. This bank has total of 100 crore as TDTL. This bank has given 20 crore to other bank. Then this subtraction if you do, then you get 80 crore. That 80 crore is called as NDTL. From TDTL you have to subtract loans given to other banks. Then you will get net demand and time liabilities. You understood? Net here means, imagine TDTL can also be called as gross demand and time liabilities. Gross minus something is net. Here what is it that we are subtracting is loans given to other banks. Why are we doing this? Because this NDTL is a concept used to identify how much you should keep as CRR SLR. Probably you would have studied about CRR, we have to keep around, as of now 4.5% is CRR, 18% is SLR. So imagine this bank is keeping it, then there is no problem. But if this bank has given loan to another bank, then other bank will also keep it because it is a liability for them. All liabilities they have to keep it. If they have taken a loan from this bank, is it a liability for them or not? They will keep on their liabilities, they have to keep SLR and CRR. Because bank B is already keeping, there is no need for bank A to keep it. If both of them keep it, will become double or not. That is why we subtract that part which has been given as loan to other banks. So because other banks are already keeping this, you can say CR or SLR there. You understood this? So RBI was established as a regulator in this entire banking system to ensure that all the stakeholders here, depositor, bank, whoever is taking loan, they will all be protected. So why it was established at this point of time exactly? Ambedkar wrote in his book The Problem of the Rupee that we have to establish, and also Hilton Young Commission recommended in, you can say in modern history, probably you would have read it. So they also recommended we should set it up. And First World War, after First World War, you can say this whole economic troubles started increasing. Usually whenever economic troubles are present, frauds will also increase. People naturally don't want to do frauds. Whenever they also have trouble, they will feel that putting other people in trouble is better than me being in trouble. Then you can say whenever this sort of situation arises, frauds will increase. But because frauds are increasing, we need a regulator, and that means we set up RBI. So RBI, is it an independent body? RBI Act does not mention anything about structural independence, but functionally or operationally it is independent. RBI Act says that it can be taken over, the functions can be taken over anytime. That means structurally it is not independent at all. But in operation means only as a practice, as a convention, we have established this independence, understanding between RBI and government. Ministers do not interfere as a behavioral aspect only. It is not structurally or legally established anywhere. You understood this? So why should we have independence in the first place? Because there is something called as growth inflation conflict. So this growth inflation is a conceptual aspect which is present in every economy, not just India. What is this growth inflation conflict? Earlier we saw in this virtuous cycle, as demand increases, production increases, employment increases, and income of people increases. This part we already saw. And as production increases, this is what we call as increase in growth. But the problem is, as income of people increases, people are trying to buy more and more. And what is happening to demand? You can see demand is increasing rapidly. Demand can increase very rapidly. What are the two conditions to be met to have demand? Willingness and ability. People already have willingness, they want to buy a lot of things. Ability means they don't have cash. Right now because of employment they are getting cash. That means demand is increasing rapidly. But supply will not increase so fast because it takes time to grow tomatoes or wheat or cars or whatever it is to supply it. To supply according to matching to demand, it is not going to be, you can see suddenly in a single second we cannot make a car. You understood? That means supply will lag behind demand. As demand exceeds supply, what happens to prices? Prices will increase and this will create inflation. As growth is happening, growth is directly proportional to inflation. This is what it means. Why? Because virtuous cycle will drive up, you can say, demand very quickly, but supply cannot be driven up so quickly. This leads to supply demand mismatch and this leads to inflation. You understood this? Growth increases, inflation increases because both are directly proportional. What do we want? We want high growth, but we don't want high inflation. We want inflation to be stable. So in many of the books of economics, they have compared inflation to be like heat of the engine. Like for example, imagine you are driving an aeroplane or something. We have to maintain relatively reasonable level of heat. If heat becomes too much, then what happens? Then there will be engine failure. If engine failure is happening, we will not be able to go forward. Maybe entire plane will crash. We don't want heat to become zero or engine to be frozen also. We want a little bit, but we don't want too much. Optimum amount of heat should be present in the engine, and that is how inflation is. But the problem is the faster we go, the hotter it will become. You understood? The more increase of growth happens, increase in inflation happens. We want inflation to be constant and yet growth to increase as much as possible. You understood? If inflation somehow we can maintain it to be absolutely constant, how much growth can happen? Imagine in an aeroplane we have done something, created a new technology to constantly maintain the temperature of the engine. What is the maximum speed we can go? This is called as potential GDP. Potential GDP means with constant inflation how much growth can happen. is called as potential GDP. You understood this? But that in reality it is not possible. As growth increases, inflation also increases. So you understood growth inflation conflict. Problem is growth increases, inflation also increases. But what ideally we want is growth should increase, inflation should not increase. And that means we have a conflict here. That is growth inflation conflict. If the same agency is responsible for both, government, imagine government has promised to people, I will create 10 crore jobs and we will achieve 12% growth. That means they are focusing on what? Growth or inflation control? They are focusing on growth. If they are focusing purely on growth, what happens to inflation? It will keep increasing. As it keeps increasing, growth, future prospects of growth will be compromised. But government is not thinking about future, it is only thinking about the next election, which is maybe 1 or 2 years away only. And that means, because of this reason, sometimes focus on inflation is compromised, because government is always more on, you can say it has attention on short term, whereas what we want is long term stability of the economy. So we realized that there is a conflict of interest, and we split this responsibility of control of growth and control of inflation to different agencies, and that is why we have this RBI as a separate agency, and that is why it needs independence also. If it does not have independence, what happens? Government will force RBI to focus on growth, and this will lead to compromise on inflation, and inflation will increase. Government's responsibility is to increase growth. RBI's responsibility is what? To control inflation. This is basically, you can say, the present scenario. Monetary policy as of now means control of inflation. This is the primary. Earlier we used to have a multiple goal method. Right now only single major goal is present, that is inflation targeting, also called inflation control, whatever it is, both are same. Earlier RBI decided monetary policy completely by itself, but in 2016 they did an amendment and they created a monetary policy committee. Right now who decides this monetary policy is this committee. And what exactly is this committee? RBI sends 3 people to this committee, the government sends 3 people to the committee. Who is from RBI? Governor, Deputy Governor of Monetary Policy and office are nominated by Central Board. And from government they have not mentioned who it is. As of now they are sending some professors from IIMs, etc., people who are experts in economics. So they will represent government's views and RBI will represent its own views. Both of them will come to a conclusion that what should be done, and they will vote finally. Voting will happen among these 6 people. What should we do to repo rate, how to change, you can say, this inflation, etc. So once this voting happens, because even number is there, there is a possibility of a tie. To break this tie, governor has been given a second vote also. That means first he will vote. If there is a tie, again he will vote. Totally 7 votes will be present, because whenever there is a tie, if there is no tie, then 6 only. You understood? So this is how monetary policy committee is working. Voting and majority of votes. Governor will vote in the first instance and also have a casting vote in the case of a tie. There is no veto to governor. What does this MPC do? It decides repo rate. Resolutions adopted by MPC is published after the conclusion. Then every 6 months it will also, a resolution, everybody knows what is the difference between, in Lok Sabha you would have studied what is bill and what is resolution. Resolution means opinion of the house, and same way here also. For this committee, what is the opinion of the committee, it is passed and it is published in website and to media, etc. Every 6 months it will publish a report also. In this source of inflation and forecast of inflation will be present. Sources means currently what is causing inflation. Forecast means what? In future what will cause inflation is forecast of inflation. As of now what is causing inflation is, you can say, some Ukraine-Russia war, shortage of oil price increase, all these type of things are causing inflation. In future what can cause inflation? El Nino maybe is occurring in Pacific Ocean, which leads to reduction in monsoon in India. This may be, another war may happen somewhere in Saudi Arabia or something. I'm just giving example. So this sort of, you can say, factor may lead to oil price increase and it may lead to inflation. So this is basically, you can say, how forecast of inflation is identified.
Sir,
Yeah.
so does the MPC have any influence, or does it discuss the other bank rates or like any other rates?
Yes, it will decide the repo rate. That means repo rate actually is the policy rate. In India, how we usually have it, normal situation of monetary policy is repo rate is the major tool, everything else is linked to repo rate. Once you change repo rate, everything else will also change by that much. When they say repo rate has been reduced by 1%, it means bank rate also is reduced by 1%, reverse repo rate is also 1%, that means the entire system will change, shift by 1%. This is how repo rate works normally, but because right now we are in some sort of a crisis control, we may change, you can say, different things differently. You understood this? So when they decide repo rate, it means that they are deciding all monetary policy. So the resolution adopted by MPC is published, this part we saw. Then this is about monetary policy. Who is right now deciding monetary policy is Monetary Policy Committee. You understood this? Then what is the relationship between RBI on one side and government on the other? This is decided by this monetary policy framework agreement. This agreement has been signed by government and RBI, and government RBI agree on what should be the range of inflation. As of now, 4 plus or minus 2%. That means upper limit is 6%, lower limit is 2%, inflation should always remain between this. So this is called flexible inflation targeting, recommended by Urjit Patel committee. Flexible because we are not giving single number, we are given some flexibility. About 4% flexibility is there, it can be there somewhere in the between. So inflation can be in the range of 2 to 6%, this is what MPFA is saying. Operating target, operating procedure, that means short term target. As of now, imagine inflation is 7%, short term target is to bring it to 6%, this is operating target. To bring it from 7% to 6%, what is the procedure? What to change with regard to repo rate, CRR, SLR, etc. That is operating procedure. So they will decide this operating target, operating procedure. If violated for 3 consecutive quarters, consider the failure. Recently this failure happened because RBI was not able to maintain this for 3 consecutive quarters below 6%. Inflation has been high consistently. So this is called a failure. In case of failure, what should happen? RBI is required to provide reasons for the failure, why this failure happened. Propose remedial measures, that means what we will do now. As of now, we have failed to control inflation. What exactly are we going to do now? And the expected time to return inflation, how much will it take to bring back inflation? Into what range? Same 2 to 6%. We have to be able to bring it back to 2 to 6% range again. So this is called as monetary policy framework agreement. Look at this question, this is 2021 prelims question. Governor of RBI is appointed by central government. True or false? True. Because central government, RBI itself is an agency of, you can say, government itself. It means governor is appointed also. Sometimes if they want, they can remove him also. If one is true, which one can you eliminate? B. So try to follow this approach for statement based questions. Come to the option, eliminate and go back to the statements. Certain provisions in the Constitution of India give central government the right to issue directions to RBI in public interest. RBI is what type of body? Is it statutory, executive or constitutional? It is statutory. If it is statutory, is the Constitution mentioning RBI anywhere? No. That means they are saying in the Constitution, if they are specifically mentioning, then only we can think about it. Because it is a statutory body, there is nothing in Constitution about it. That means this second is wrong. If second is wrong, which one can you eliminate? A and D can be eliminated. Just to now we have to verify whether 3 is correct or not. Governor of RBI draws his power from RBI Act. So this is, even if you don't know, it doesn't have any, you can say anything which is controversial, probably it is true. You understood this? So now we have understood who is setting the monetary policy, that is committee. What is the relationship between RBI and government, that is through monetary policy framework agreement. Then what does RBI do? Functions of RBI. First, it acts like a banker to government. That means people cannot open accounts in RBI, people can only open account in other banks. But governments can open account in RBI and do the same banking transaction. They can deposit money, they can take loans, they can transfer money, whatever a normal person does with a normal bank, government will do with RBI. Implementing monetary policy. Monetary policy's major goal is what? Inflation control is major goal. Act as agent of governments with regard to membership of IMF. Whenever somebody has to represent India in IMF, who will do it? RBI Governor Shaktikant Das will represent India in IMF. Then handling borrowing program of government. Whenever government wants a loan, because loans and bank and everything is expertise of RBI, it will just ask RBI to bring a loan. Whenever government asks RBI to bring a loan, government, why does it require loan? Government, what is the primary source of income for government? It is usually tax, but the problem is tax will not come regularly every month, every week or something. It will come here and there lump sum amounts. In the middle it needs money, or also it needs money for various other reasons also. When it needs money, after we cannot tax beyond a certain limit, then at that time also it will ask for a loan. When it asks for a loan, RBI, what it does is RBI will sell government securities. Any people, government, even banks, other people can also, companies can also buy government securities. Government security is a bond. When you buy a bond, you give the cash to RBI. RBI will give this cash to government. Bond means loan. In economy, bond is simply another word for loan. So whenever somebody buys a bond, it simply means they have given a loan. You understood? When somebody is buying government bonds or government securities, it means they have given loan to government. You understood RBI's role here as, you can say, handling borrowing program of government. So here the money is going towards government. What does government do with this money? Government will usually spend it on schemes. As it spends it on schemes, the money comes back into economy. Problem is, usually who is actually giving this money is people who have surplus money, extra money. They are giving this money as a loan, and once this money, government is spending it on rich or poor? Poor. Who is giving this loan, rich or poor? Rich. Money changes hands from rich to poor. When money changes hands from rich to poor, there is a concept in economics called as propensity to consume. Propensity means inclination or likelihood, basically is propensity. So the likelihood consumption happens actually is high in, imagine rich people, imagine you give, Adani is sitting somewhere, you give 2000 rupee note him, what will he do? Does he need to buy anything right now? He has everything he needs. He'll probably keep it in his pocket. If it falls down, he doesn't feel like picking it up also, because he already has everything he needs. That means rich people have less propensity to consume. But if you give 2000 rupee to a rickshawala, he will immediately spend it, because he has so many things, a list of things he wants to buy, and even that 2000 is not probably enough. That means if you give money to poorer sections of society, the money immediately changes hands, and this leads to higher velocity of circulation. Velocity means the money is moving quickly. If money is moving quickly, it seems like there is more money. When more money, more times it is moving, what happens to demand? Demand increases. As demand increases, what happens to prices? Prices will also increase in velocity. So increased propensity to consume, increased velocity of circulation, increased demand, increased inflation. You understood? When money changes from rich people to poor people, there is a possibility of inflation, because propensity to consume is different. Money supply has not changed. Same money came from economy, it went into economy itself. But the movement is now faster. Because the movement is faster among poor, propensity or likelihood to consume is high. This creates inflation. You understood this? So here, what is the actual role of RBI? To control inflation. But what it is doing now, whenever government asks loan, it is actually helping the government to get this loan. That means what is actually happening is it is causing inflation. So again, there is a conflict of interest here when whatever RBI is doing as agent of government. So there is a proposal to split this function of RBI into some another agency called as PDMA. PDMA is Public Debt Management Agency. So as of now, this borrowing program of government is still done by RBI. There is a proposal to shift it to Public Debt Management Agency. Then issuing of currency is very simple, probably everybody knows it. RBI issues currency, everything except 1 rupee coins, and other coins are also issued, minted by Finance Ministry. Remaining thing is issued by RBI. Then banker to banks, just like you can say government can open accounts and do transactions with RBI, similarly banks can open accounts and do transactions with RBI. People cannot do open accounts in RBI, banks and governments can. Guardian of banking system and money market. Guardian means RBI is a regulator. What is a regulator? What does it mean? A regulator is like a umpire. Its job is to make sure that everybody plays fair. Here RBI is making sure that depositors and bank and people who are taking loan, everybody's interest is protected. That is the job of RBI. Guardian of banking, just like umpire acts like a guardian of the game. Imagine in cricket, if nobody is following the rules, you are getting out but you are not going away. Then people, what happens to, you can say, the game? People will lose that interest in the game. Only when they are following rules, it is respected. Similarly here, only when banks, everybody, all stakeholders are following rules, it is respected. And that means it is acting as a guardian, you can say, of banking system. Then it acts as a custodian of forex reserves. Forex reserve means, forex means what? Forex is foreign exchange, it means foreign currency. Custodian means any dollar or any other currency that comes to India, it finally goes to RBI. It is the final destination. And anybody who needs dollar, they have to go to RBI to get it. Imagine somebody comes to India with their dollar. If they try to buy something in India using dollar, will they be able to do it? No. So what should they do? They will go to some currency exchange station and they will exchange it dollar to rupee. This dollar finally reaches RBI. All other currencies, in fact, yen, renminbi, you can say British pounds, everything will go to RBI. And anybody who needs any other currency, finally they will also go to RBI. That means RBI, that is what is called as the custodian of forex reserves. As of now, in March 2023, we have $572 billion of forex reserves in RBI. Earlier we used to have more, but right now, because depreciation of currency happen to make sure that you can say we control its depreciation, we have used up this dollar. Then lender of last resort. Lender of last resort means we already saw how bank works. Depositors have deposited money, this money has been given as a loan. When this money has been given as a loan, if depositor asks the money back, then imagine the bank is unable to give because it has given it as a loan. Then what happens? Then imagine the bank is unable to give somehow. This creates a bank run. Bank run means this person is now panicking, and this panic they will tell until everybody else this bank is not giving money. They also have this money. They are all run to the bank. That is why it is called a bank run. When everybody runs to the bank, then the bank you can say is closing down. This is called as a bank run. Same thing happened in Silicon Valley Bank. You understood? To prevent this bank run, what should we do? We should ensure that the depositor who is asking his money back should receive the money back. So RBI says, see, our job is to ensure we protect the entire banking system. That means what is important to protect the entire banking system is the trust of the depositor on the bank. To protect the trust of the depositor, we will give you the loan. Using that loan, you pay back the depositor. You understood? Lender of last resort means when nobody else is giving the loan to this bank, RBI will always give the loan to the bank. Why is it giving this loan? Because its job is guardian of banking system. To guard the banking system, who is the most important stakeholder and whose money is being used here? It is depositor's money. So that means you have to protect the trust of depositor. As long as depositor's trust is protected, only then you can say banking system works. When depositor's trust is broken, then the entire banking system will collapse. You understood this? So this is the meaning of lender of why last resort? Lender you understood, okay, we want to protect the depositor's trust. Why last resort? If no other option is present, then only they should go. If every person, every bank, every day is going to RBI, RBI has other better things to do, like controlling inflation. This should only be a secondary role to RBI. That means RBI says you try to find loan elsewhere. If nowhere else you are able to find, then only you come to us. That is why RBI kept interest rates high. That means RBI's interest rates are high. When nowhere else they are able to find, then only they go to RBI. You understood? So this is the meaning of lender of last resort. Then finally, controller of credit. Controller of credit means RBI tries to control inflation in the economy. Credit means what? Credit means basically loan here. So in India we felt that we have to control the entire economy. Imagine all these are businesses. How to control all the businesses? There are different businesses. One is mining business, another is agriculture, another is services, etc. So in this case, what is common input to all of them? There are different inputs, but credit is common input to all of them because everybody is taking some sort of loan. RBI felt that if we control these loans, we can control all these businesses or not. So RBI felt that, see, banks will control these loans. If we control the banks, we can control the loans, and if we can control the loans, we can control the businesses, and even we can control people who are buying from businesses because they are also taking loans to buy. You understood? Control of credit means control over economy itself. RBI uses control over credit to control money supply in the economy. When money supply is controlled, inflation is controlled. How inflation increases? We already saw people have too much money on their hands. That means both willingness to buy, ability to buy increases, demand increases. Then demand is increasing rapidly, supply is not increasing rapidly, then inflation occurs. Imagine we reduce money supply. Instead of demand increasing rapidly, demand also increases a little slowly. Then supply is here. So that means you have controlled inflation. You understood this? So that means RBI is trying to control all the businesses and all the consumers also by controlling how much loans they are capable of taking. Imagine interest rate is increased by RBI. Banks will also increase interest rates. Will more people take loans or less people? Less people. If less people take loans, less money is available in the economy, less demand, less inflation. So this is the meaning of controller of credit. In fact, controller of credit is the most important function of RBI because it is through control of credit that it controls inflation. Look at this 2020 last year question. In India, which of the following is responsible for maintaining price stability by controlling inflation? RBI. Price stability. What is inflation? Inflation means increase in general price level. If they are not increasing, if they are stable, that means we are controlling inflation. You understand? Who is responsible for doing it? This is, you can see this type of question. You don't even need to study economy, you will be able to answer this type of question as it is. Usually when this type of question is asked, students will feel there is some trap here and they will spend the entire 2 minutes to reread the question again and again. But these type of questions which are very simple are also asked, and in economy especially they are asked, and you should be able to ensure that you will score. Because these questions, actually you should be able to score even more. So using qualitative and quantitative measures, it controls the economy overall. It controls credit supply, controls economy using the control over credit. Basically, this question has been asked probably 3 times in the last 10 years. Which one of these is a quantitative measure? Which one of these is a qualitative measure? It is a very important type of question. It is a very simple question also, but you have to be able to identify it clearly. So in this, probably everybody has already studied it, we'll go through it quickly as a revision. So before going into all these things, first you need to know some aspects. First is, you can say, high powered money. High powered money or reserve money are also called M0. All these names are same. Government money, it is money printed by RBI. Money printed by RBI means if RBI prints a 2000 rupee note, and that is what we call as high powered money. How much ever money has been printed by RBI so far, everything is high powered money or also called M0 or reserve money. That is just a name given for this term. Then velocity of circulation, we already discussed the speed at which you can say money is changing hands very quickly. If it is changing hands very quickly, velocity is high. If it is changing hands very slowly, then velocity is low. Average number of times money passes from one hand to another. This velocity is high in rich people's hands or poor people's hands? Poor. This is what we just discussed. Higher the velocity, higher the inflationary pressure, because as money changes hands quickly, you can see that it creates number of transactions means amount of, you can say, expenditure that happened. Imagine you have 1000 rupees in your hands. You go and eat Golgappa with this 1000. This person gets 1000, and then this aloo is over because he ate so much. Then he will buy aloo. Then aloo person again, if he eats Golgappa, how much Golgappa has been sold today? It is 2000 worth of Golgappa or not. That means how much actually is in circulation is only 1000 rupees, but the same money is circulating quickly. That means 2000 worth of Golgappa is sold, means he feels that instead of making one plate 50 rupees, he can make 100 rupees also, because everybody is eating 1000 rupee. That means you can see that it creates inflationary pressure or not. As money moves quickly, it creates inflationary pressure. The more money is also going to create inflation. That means if you add extra money into economy, it will also create inflation. Velocity of money will also create inflation. Which one will create more inflation? Extra money. Why? Because extra money it will have its own velocity also. When extra money comes, the money is also there and its own speed is also present. That means it has more potential to create inflation rather than just existing money with its velocity. You understood this? So far we saw what is M0, that is money printed by RBI. Then velocity of circulation means how fast the money is moving in the economy. And third is money multiplier. This is slightly dicey concept. It is money multiplier. First thing you have to understand about money multiplier is, if a person has deposited money in the bank and the bank has given loan to someone else, imagine this person, if he checks balance, the person's account will show that much money or not. Imagine 100 rupees has been given as a loan to him. If he checks balance, he shows your deposit is 100 rupees or not. When he goes and asks the money back, will the bank give it or not? They somehow has to give it. And this person now he already has this money. He may take it out and put it in another bank also. Then also he has this money. But still depositor has to be, how much money is there in the economy? Actually what is printed by RBI M0 is only 100. But now because it went into the bank, the depositor also has access to the money. The person who took the loan also has access to the money. That means the bank has multiplied this money that has been printed by RBI. This effect created by banks is called as money multiplier effect. You understood? This person can take it into another bank, and now this bank can give another loan to another person. Now he also has access to money, he also has it, and he also has it. That means, can banks create infinite money if infinite banks are there or not? It is possible. So we don't want infinite money to be created. Then what will be the problem if infinite money is there? It will create inflation. So we have to have some sort of a control over it. We want more money to be created, but we want to control it. To control it, RBI created CRR. CRR means if 100 rupees is deposited into the bank, 4 rupees should be kept aside, and remaining 96 rupees only you can give as amount. This person now can deposit only 96 rupees in another bank. Out of that, another some 3 point some rupees will be kept aside, and remaining is given as a. You can see every bank will keep aside some money. That means every subsequent transaction overall money is reducing, and as money is reducing, you can see it will not create infinite amount. At one point it will end. You understand? Using CRR, we are trying to control money multiplier effect that is happening in the economy. You understood the 2 points. First point is money multiplier effect means the actual money that is in circulation in the economy is much more than what is RBI printed. Whatever RBI printed is M naught, and banks have multiplied this money in the economy by giving it as a loan to other people. That is what we call as money multiplier effect. But RBI does not want infinite amount of money to be created, so it created CRR to limit this. And as CRR is kept aside and loan is given by every bank, you can see that the amount of money that is created, somehow we can put a limit on it. You understood this? The amount of money banking system generates with each rupee is called money multiplier. It is inversely proportional to CRR. As CRR increases, imagine instead of 4% we increase it to 10%. Then we keep aside 10% is kept aside by every bank. Then what happens to how much money is created? It reduces. So that means as CRR increases, money multiplier effect reduces. You understood this? So you can see money goes into the bank, then this person takes a loan, he puts it into another bank. As of now, we have assumed CRR is 5%. He will take and will put, and you can see 5% is kept aside in every case. So if you add up everything, the cycle keeps on continuing, but the money keeps reducing every time they are giving loan. That means there is a limit on how much money is created. Assuming CRR is 10%, how much money can be created using 100 is totally 1000 rupees. How to calculate how much money can be created is very simple. 1 by CRR into 100 will give us how much money can be created. 1 divided by CRR into 100 is equal to how much money multiplier, how much money can be created. Imagine CRR is 4%. How much money can be created? 25 times more money compared to M naught can be created by the banking system. Imagine CRR is increased to 5%. How much money can be created? 20 times more money. If CRR is 10%, 10 times more money can be created. You understood? Imagine we want to increase money supply. What should we do to CRR? Reduce it. During, you can say post-COVID, we wanted to, you can say, expand the economy because demand had reduced drastically. We reduced CRR to 3%. When we reduce it to 3%, what happens to maximum possible money supply? It increases to how much? 1 by 3 into 100 is 33 point. That means we are not talking about, you can say, even thousands of crores here. Lakhs of crores of money supply will increase overnight when CRR is reduced to, you can say, from 4% to 3%. You understood this? Because we are talking in terms of times of money compared to what is printed by RBI. So that is basically, you can say, how CRR is able to control money multiplier effect. The amount of you can say money banking system creates is basically money multiplier. It increases with decrease in CRR, means there is inverse proportion between them. It improves as banking penetration increases. What does it mean when we say banking penetration?
Anyone who takes the money and if it's not going to the bank, then the money will not multiply.
If they are taking the money out of the bank, somewhere in this chain, whole chain, whatever we saw, if somebody takes out the money, what happens to money multiplier effect? It will break there only. In India, we don't have 100% banking penetration yet, and we don't have all the people with bank accounts also. So that means if 4% is here, ideally how much money we can create is actually 25 times. But RBI has calculated how much money we are able to create right now is only 8 to 10 times of M naught. That means what is missing in India? Banking penetration, or you can say normal financial inclusion. People with bank accounts, they are not adding the money into the bank. They don't have that kind of access also, trust also, financial literacy also to be able to, you can say, use the banking system. Because of this reason, we are not able to reach that entire 25, whatever is the potential of the you can say entire economy. Look at this question. Money multiplier in economy increases with which one of the following? Increase in CRR. Will it increase money multiplier? No, it is inversely proportional. Increase in banking habit of the population. If more people are banking, probably true. Increase in statutory liquidity ratio. It has no link to this. Imagine you don't know about it. Increase in population of the country. Population does not automatically mean they have money, and even if they have money, automatically does not mean they will put in the bank. So that means lot more conditions need to be satisfied. So this is wrong. When you come to two questions, you have to answer it. Usually you try to, I think probably everybody is already doing it, but whenever you have two options, that means you have eliminated two options, you have to answer that question. That is normally in UPSC exam, because negative is 0.66, positive is 2. If you calculate probability of it, then imagine you do it for 30 questions. Normally people will answer, if you are consistently doing it in practice, you will answer 16, 17 questions right if you eliminate 2 options. But imagine in your case you are not able to do that much, you are able to do maybe 9 correct, 21 wrong. Even in this worst case scenario also, 9 correct means how much will you get as positive, 21 wrong means how much will you get negative, 14. That means you still get 4 positive even in worst case scenario also. You understood this? So that means whenever you eliminate 2 options, whenever I tell this, usually students come to me say that in every question I am getting wrong. Then if that is the case, probably you are eliminated the correct answer in the beginning itself, then you among the remaining options you are tried to choose. You have to be sure that whatever eliminated is wrong answer, then you can follow this approach. So a related concept to money multiplier is this currency deposit ratio. In the name itself it is there. Deposit means what? Putting into the bank. Currency deposit ratio means, imagine you hold 100 rupees in your hand, you have put 50 rupees in the bank account. Currency deposit ratio means currency people hold as a proportion to the aggregate deposits. In India, people don't have that kind of trust on entire banking system that they put entire money in the bank. They will always have some cash with themselves. So currency deposit ratio, as it increases, you can say money multiplier, currency deposit ratio is increasing means people are putting less money in the bank. They are holding more cash. Ratio means numerator and denominator is present. Denominator as it increases, you can see this currency deposit ratio as it increases, decrease in money multiplier effect. That means you can see that basically currency people hold and currency people they are putting in the bank account, these are the only 2 things that are there in currency deposit ratio. So the same thing whatever we saw, banking habit of the population or banking penetration, same thing if you measure it in mathematical form, it is called as currency deposit ratio. You understood this? So this part from repo rate, this part also will be going fast. We'll take in next class. Probably in next class we'll cover this part and inflation and unemployment, poverty, small things, whatever static topics revision is there. So this will take in tomorrow's class. We'll end the class here. Thank you.